Park Kangtae was a prodigious boxer, perhaps too much so. His excessive confidence led him into too many fights and problems, and as a result, he suffered a severe arm injury. With his arm broken, he had to abandon the idea of making a living from his fighting skills and resorted to a life of crime. However, this should not have been his destiny. He possessed the power, speed, talent, and even the charisma to become a professional, but his criminal background ultimately claimed his life. He swore that if he had a second chance, he would do his best, regardless of the circumstances. But was that really true? Even if he were reborn in an extremely skinny and fragile body, in a time when fighting was all about size and who could take more punches, he would have to use his genius talents and knowledge of the future to overcome the greatest adversity for a fighter, a frail physique that couldn't take 2 hits. But at this moment, Park Kangtae is at a port surrounded by all his fellow gang members. He's all bloodied, slumped against the wall. His name? Kangtae Park, and he's saying, "This damn thing here hurts, huh?" A guy with a scar on his mouth says, "I'll give you time to smoke your last cigarette." He thanks, pulls out a lighter, and lights the cigarette. Sometime later, the scar-faced guy says, "Hey, he's my brother, so kill him quick, because I don't want him to suffer too much." The bald guy replies, "All right, brother." Comes up to the fallen guy and says, "Man, I'm sorry, brother." Park looks at him and replies, "I know, you bastard. You're just doing what you're told, right?" He lowers his eyes thinking, "Damn, what a life of rage and despair. I still know I'm involved in all this shit, but all I wanted to do in this life was to be able to become a boxer. I had everything, the height, punch power, the charisma to become famous. In high school, everyone called me promising. I was a prodigy. But, the shitty part is I couldn't handle the provocations that came my way. I couldn't control myself. I was a crazy young man. I took a hit that busted my arm. After that, they told me I would never be able to fight again. Was there another way? Could I try a comeback? Or at least make a living? Damn, it doesn't matter. It's too late for regrets now." He got hit in the chest. "If I had one more chance, even just one more time, I wanted to fight just one more time." And like that, the life of Kangtae Park ended, but soon enough he heard voices from afar. Someone shouting, "Callie, you're useless, man. I'm ashamed to be a boxing apprentice from the same place as you. Hey, Callie, wake up, man. Damn, man, did this idiot die? Screw it, I don't care about him." Another voice says, "Hey, let's go, brother." Confused, Kangtae Park wakes up. "They're calling me, Callie." The guys fled the scene. "Better we get out of here." All bloodied on the ground. Opening his eyes, they're but almost lifeless. He wakes up, gets up. "What is this? I died, I'm sure. I just got stabbed, didn't I?" This is our protagonist, Callie. The scene changes to a group of teenagers with a guy giving a speech to them. "The losers of the fight will go to the mine. Of course, if you win, you stay here. In August, the school for boxing apprentices. If you don't want to go to the mine, you better train as if you're going to die. This is the instructor, Nixer. Listen carefully to the pairs I'm assigning to you now. Torres and Maris, Undin and Binzen, Kijo and Damien, Johnny and Caesar. And lastly, Slit and Kali. The pairs that were called now will fight in a week." The guy with spiky hair was happy with the selection, perfect captain, while the weaker folks were stunned. "Hey, Captain, are you telling us to die, man?" Callie understood the situation. Is this what he's going to do? Pit the strongest against the weakest? The mine is a dangerous place where many people die and get diseases. The environment there is much worse than training hard. If I go to that place, I might end up having some lung problems. I have to avoid going to that place at all costs. Nixer then speaks, and Callie, follow me, there's something I have to ask you to do. The kid with dreads didn't like it. This Callie is getting special treatment again. But one beside him says, "Man, he's an idiot who can't keep up with anyone in training. So it's whatever, brother." The scene changes to the two talking, and Nixer tells him, "I sent your name to the owner to prepare your pantry." Callie replies, "Oh, really?" The teacher finds it strange. Why does Callie seem so calm? Then he continues speaking. "Callie, you don't have the physique of a fighter. Your bone structure is small, and the same goes for the mine. You're going to die soon if you keep going there." Callie looks at himself. "Really, with a body like this, if I keep going to the mine, I will die before a year." Nixer says, "I'm going to recommend to the owner that you be sold to a..." Callie interrupts him, saying, "Even so, I want to fight in a week." Nixer is confused and asks Callie, "Do you really want to fight?" The Callie I know would be crying and lamenting. Then Callie tells him, "Instructor, I will definitely become a boxer," and then he stares at him. Nixer laughs. "If that's the case, then I won't say anything else. When you change your mind, just come talk to me, Callie." Callie walks away thinking, "Are you sure about this, Callie?" Of course not. Until recently, I was a criminal living on Earth. I was part Kangtae. But this here is a new life. In this body as Callie, it's my chance to fight again. The shitty thing is that this body is too weak, The bones are weak and there's no endurance. Probably my growth is delayed and my punches have no strength at all. Besides, it seems that Callie was a victim of a lot of bullying. It must have been because of his body. A second chance is great, but this body here. Someone then calls his name. Hey Callie. When he looks back, here come these guys again. 1 second, and gets hit in the face. I never liked this bastard here. The fact that the instructor keeps calling him all the time also pisses me off. He was bragging that this guy's father was a champion. He should just die, man. Insignificant bastard. A guy on the side says, really, this kid is pathetic. Oh, what happened today? Normally, he would already be crying on the ground as usual, but he's resisting. The protagonist thinking, what a disgrace, how pathetic was the owner of this body. Slit looks at him. Hey, I just want to see you in a week. Don't show up in front of me. Callie responds, perfect, because in a week, you're going to the mine. Slit rushes to hit him from above. Callie looks at it thinking, truck, his punch is huge. With this body here, it won't work. But Howell? Wait. His punch is too slow. What is this? Poof, easily dodges. Wait, how did I dodge? Just like that? That grabbed the attention from the boy in the tree. Slit comes to give another one, while Callie thinks it's not an illusion. It's so clear. The trajectory of the fist, every detail of the hand. It's as if I could see everything. It's like he's fighting in slow motion. It's here where the guard is lower, hit right in the solar plexus. The kids all get a shock, but Slit grabs him. What? Callie, you're dumbass. Unfortunately, his punch didn't do anything, and now he's going to be beaten up. Some punches later, the guys are leaving. Ah, trash like that, making jokes. But the guy that was in the tree looked back, stares at his body, and turns around. The protagonist was smashed on the ground, but he was dying of laughter. Why didn't I notice until now? The thing that's as important as weight in boxing. Coordination and reflex. The coordination of hand and eye that can see every grain of sand. And that follows your movement, and reflexes that can dodge any punch. It seems I have quite a useful gift, don't I? Ha, I'm not going back to that mine. I'm going to fight and win, and I will survive in this place. 20 years ago, the rising revolt of the armored gladiators. A situation so tough, even regular troops would have trouble dealing with it. The kingdom, barely managing to suppress the rebellion, later abolished the system of slave gladiators. And that's how the fighters were born. The fight to destroy an opponent with just fists. That delighted the audience. Okay, that was why I found out about fighters in this world. But this body is so trash. And we see everyone's running in the morning exercises. Damn, if I get too tired, I'll be even more exhausted for the fight. The guy next to him. Hey, Callie. You're already tired, my man. It's better if you run slowly. But he says, I'm fine, man. I don't care. I'll do everything I can to survive in this place. I can't get strong, I won't even stay alive anyway, so whatever. A voice then shouts, it's over now, everyone stop. Callie is thinking, damn, I could run better even when I was drunk. Nixer stares at Callie. That kid always lagged behind, and now he's in the middle of everyone. If he had shown this determination before, we wouldn't have to let him go. What happened to him? Some kids are talking there. Hey man, you don't think Callie ran too much for someone who got beaten up today? The guy next to him. Dude, don't you think he's been strange since we hit his head? Nixer hears. Callie hurt his head. What are you saying? Hey, Instructor Nixer. They then told him everything. And then Nixer calmly asked. Callie was beaten up by another group? Yes, I think he was beaten more than usual, you know. I even thought he was dead because he was bleeding everywhere. Ear, head, nose. Hey, Nixer. Could that be what made him change so much? The near-death experience? Who knows, but it's good to keep an eye on this kid. Then they had individual training in the afternoon. Everyone's working hard to avoid going to the mine. Callie thinks she'd work as hard as them, but this training method won't be effective. Even giving my best, I won't be able to gain enough muscle to cause damage with this body in a week. All I need is to hit the jaw, a crucial point, right on the chin. It's the only place where I will be able to cause significant damage because it will make that kid's head shake. That's it. Hit and make him fall. Precisely, perfectly, right on the chin. A guy appears behind. Callie, what are you doing now? I'm in the middle of my training. Why aren't you training like the other guys in our group, huh? Callie replies, I have my way of training. For me, they're all outdated. The instructor gets angry. What an insolent little kid, huh? We were all fighters even before you were born. You won't gain anything by ignoring your seniors, you know that? The protagonist thinks, in this place, everyone fights in a smash-everything style. As if it were a heavyweight fight in my world. Everyone just tries to deliver the strongest and most direct punch. But that's something that won't work in this body. The senior continues, Kali, now go pick up that log, but Mixer puts a hand on his shoulder and says, wait a minute. Are you learning this from your father, Kali? He nods yes. Well, if that's the case, then you can use this style in our training field. If it's the style of a champion, there's something to learn from it. You're authorized to continue, Kali, Nixer thinks. Kaviram was a champion, but he wasn't a boxer. Did he teach Kali some other kind of training? Well, anyway, he really seems to have changed after that day. This kid is different. The sun sets and Kali is exhausted. Oh, I'm dead. I wanted something sweet to eat. He looks up. What? An apple tree. Picks one and starts eating. He then hears a voice. Hey, what are you doing there? He looks and sees a girl. Who is this girl? She's just staring at him with a face that's not happy. She asks if you don't have an explanation. Now pick an apple for me and come down. I want one too. He grabs one in desperation and comes down. Here, take it. She starts eating. Good job. But aren't you a slave from the training camp? Don't tell me you don't know this is the garden of a noble family. If you're caught, you'll be punished. He tells her, I really didn't know. Damn, if I get punished and get hurt, how am I supposed to compete? Then she laughs. It seems you also don't even know who I am, do you? My name is Azalea August. My father is Baron Godolph August and he is your owner, your master. Now tell me your name, slave. I'm Kali, she says, Kali. I'll pretend I didn't see what you're doing, okay? Because you gave me this apple. If you get caught again, I'll have to use the whip myself. Now get out of here before others see you. Kali says, thank you, miss. Then he runs off. That was close. And far away, she kept looking. He's so skinny. Seems too weak for a boxing slave, Kali, huh? I'll remember that name. Then we see our little protagonist training his jab. Take that, spins. Everyone is looking. Kali's weird man, he's drawing everyone's attention with his strange training. That day, he even managed to punch me. If this continues, he throws the wood on the floor. What the hell? Look at the kid. Hey, where are the instructors? Wasn't he supposed to be here? The kid with dread says. The master called everyone, and they left. Perfect, I'll test my opponent. I have to show everyone who's boss around here. Starting with this one. He comes to grab Kali. I'm going to crush him. But just dodges, son. Turns around by reflex and almost hits his jaw. He stops right before and says, sorry, man. I was so immersed in my training that I didn't realize you were next to me. I was about to hit you by accident. Slit replies, I'm good. Kali tells him, good bro, it would be shit for you to have to fight injured, right? Slit was somewhat speechless. Then Kali says, well, I'm going back to my training then, later. Kali walks away thinking, you trash. When I was in my organization, I saw many guys like you. Those who try to appear tough, making others look weaker. I crush all of them. The guy who's always watching him as they're training thinking. It wasn't a coincidence. I saw that movement again. Hey Slit, you're pale. What's the problem, brother? Are you worried about your fight with Kali? Slit turns around saying, worried? What are you talking about, man? Thank goodness I have to fight Kali, a skinny one. Nothing better than this. The guy says, you know that Kali's changing, you see? Normally he'd be complaining, annoying everyone, and we'd beat him up. But lately, he's not like before. I saw in his eyes that he was confident in his victory. You better not be negligent and not lower your guard. Slit is losing his cool. Everyone is giving attention to Kali lately. Even Torres now is talking about him. But then Torres comes to Slit and tells him, relax bro, it's Kali after all. Just beat him up and send him to the mines, right? Slit says, of course, man. That's what I'm going to do. It'll be easy. Meanwhile, at the Godolph mansion, a meeting is going on. The noble is speaking. It appears that the preparations for the fight are going well. Mixer responds yes. They even started living in the training facilities after they started training. The noble named Godolph. On this list, it appears we have a man named Torres, right? He's the promising one you talked about. What's he like? Mixer says he's quite promising. An extremely balanced fighter, a lot of strength and agility. Not to mention he's aggressive and skilled. Besides, he seems to be always trying to improve on his weaknesses. He has the potential to even become a champion. Godolph says, I'm interested in this one. Also, there's something I wanted you to do for me. What is it, sir? As you know, the reputation of our training center has fallen. We're facing some financial difficulties and had to send half of our slaves to the mines because of a lack of resources. So I want to invite some commoners as spectators and raise some money. I'm sure everyone is missing a good boxing fight, so they'll certainly enjoy this. Can you provide them with a fight worth watching? Nixer replies, yes, of course. Thinking, this guy is my master, but he's incompetent. He's the reason our training center fell in the first place. Baron Godolph August is all because of his greed. He's been running this place for 15 years. In the first 5 years, he managed to keep it afloat because he inherited the boxers that his parents took care of. This is a barren territory with little arable land, so he always sustained the family with the profits from the training center. If only he hadn't sent those kids to the king's tournament 2 years ago. And then he remembers a kid saying, "Relax, Instructor Nixer. I'll go there and show what I'm made of." But they all came back beaten up. If you hadn't done that, the training center would have had some chance of recovering. Someone in them says, "Dad, I want to see the fight too." Azalea asks, "Can you prepare a seat for me?" The Duke asks her, "Why, my girl? Didn't you say you hated it because it was too barbaric?" She says, "Sometimes I think barbaric things can also be cool to watch." But Nixer advises, "Miss, it might be too stimulating for you." Then she replies, "I think stimulating things are fun." The father then agrees, "It seems you really want to see this." But she's thinking, "Actually, I'm not so interested in these fights, but I want to see for myself. How does that skinny guy fight?" And now it's the fight day. Everyone in the city gathers around the ring. Our protagonist is entering. Finally, the moment has arrived. Hands in the sky. Everyone's shouting and Tori's saying, "Easy." He already defeated his opponent in the nobility area. The Baron says, "Wow, that was really a great fight. You trained Tori's very well and turned him into a champion in just a year." Nixer replies, "Thank you, master." The announcer says, "Next up, Slit and Callie." Azalea is there thinking. Most guys are tall, muscular. But that Callie, he's short and skinny. Why does he think he can win with that body? Nixer is there reflecting, really for a fighter, physical form is absolute, since a good body represents strength. However, there are some ways to win. The two are facing off. Slit says, "Hey Callie, why don't you just give up, kid? If you fight me to the end, you're not going to be okay, man." Callie hits him with his words. "If you were as good at punching as you are at making threats, you'd already be a champion, Slit." But inside he's thinking, "I knew this would happen, but I can't even find a place to hit this guy. The biggest problem is the difference in physical form. Nothing will happen if I hit his torso. I need to hit the jaw. To do that, I need 2 things." But here comes Slit's punch to his face. He dodges the first one. Slit stares at him. Callie thinks I need to make him lean his upper body, like he did now. It keeps dodging. Each punch he throws, he always tries to move to the side, so the guy has to change the direction and lower his guard. But the audience is not enjoying this style. "Ah, stop running, you bastard kid. Hey, you skinny. What are you doing, coward?" While Slit is there confused. "I'm on the offensive, but I've almost lost all my energy already. But why does that idiot seem to be so fine?" Then he comes to punch with his rubbish, while Callie thinks, "Well, I just need to make him keep attacking me. He will lose much more energy than me, who's just dodging the attacks." And now the second part, when he lowers his guard. But then Slit just grabs his shoulder. Callie is confused. Wait, this is cheating. But takes one right in the ribs, and that punch broke something. He's thrown to the ground. Callie stares at the audience. Everyone is cheering. Isn't anyone seeing that this kid cheated? He grabbed me with his fingers, not with a glove. But the referee already started the countdown. 10, 9, 8. Wait, I didn't think this would happen. What am I going to do? 5, 4. Ah, get up, get up. How many ribs did I break? That's not the problem now. Hey man, can you continue the fight, Callie? He's thinking, I've already died once. I won't die again. But Slit tells him you're going to regret getting up. He's standing there, but his face and his ribs aren't looking that great. He broke all that shit. Now I won't be able to move freely anymore. Slit comes in to punch. Now it's screwed. I have to do anything. He headbutts the guy's hand. Perfect. He's surprised. It's my turn to attack now. Charges at him. The kid comes in for a punch. Callie ducks underneath. I just have to dodge. Now's the chance I needed. I created it. This is mine now. Then hits him right in the jaw. Slit stumbles backward. You think just one of those will get me? Boom. Falls to the ground. 10, 9. Everyone in the audience is confused. What happened? 4, 3, 2, 1. The winner is Callie. Everyone in the audience is perplexed. How is this possible? This is madness, man. That skinny guy won. But our guy is thinking, I survived and I'll make this life worth it. A week later, the slave traders arrived and half of the apprentices were taken to the mines. The only exception among all the lower students was me. There were only 10 people in the training camp and everything was very quiet. Inside the August mansion, the two go up the stairs and Nixer says, the handcuffs will be released when you return to the training center. He looks around. So this is the August mansion. It's my first time entering this place. Nixer asks, and how's your body? He replies, it's all right. But why did the miss call me to come here? Nixer explains she seemed to be interested in you after watching your fight. Later, in Azalea's room, she says, "Hi, slave. We meet again." While he thinks, "Don't say again, they'll suspect something." Azalea then says, "Nixer, could you please wait outside?" Nixer replies, "All right then, miss." Then she tells Callie to sit there. He tells her that he's fine and doesn't need to sit. She says, "Since that's the case, I won't go against your will." But he asked her, "Why did you call me here?" Azalea gets frustrated. "My God, how impatient, huh? You're too tense. Have a fruit first, ease the mood." He bites into the apple. And she explains, "Why did I call you? Because there's something I want to ask you. You know that as a slave, you don't have the right to refuse, right?" He agrees but thinks this girl's hard to understand. She tells him, "You were amazing in the last fight. You managed to win even with those skinny arms, and you knocked him down with one hit. My father told me it was luck and coincidence, but it wasn't, was it?" He thinks, "Goddammit, this is going to be complicated." It seems she understands things quickly, then tells her the strike was somewhat a coincidence, but I shook his head. She asks, "Shook?" He replies, "Yes. If you get right on the chin with your punch, the person's head shakes, then you lose control of your body temporarily. Of course, this only happens if the impact is very strong." She's impressed and interrogates him, "So you aimed and hit right on the chin?" He agrees and she cracks a little smile. "Very well, Callie, I'm looking forward to your next fights. Keep winning and become a professional boxer. If you become a champion, you might even become a free person." Outside, Nixer removes the handcuffs and Callie thinks, a free person? Who knows? Then he went to the afternoon training. Tor is training hard there, thinking, "This is now my goal, I will achieve my freedom." And then he remembers he will become a very strong King Torres. When he was 14 years old, Nixer told him, "If that weren't the case, I wouldn't have taken you from farm work. You have a good physique and spirit, so just work hard. Become a champion and turn into a free person." He throws wood on the ground. "Damn, I hate guys like Callie who do pathetic things without a goal, or at least that's how he used to be." But suddenly, he changed, defeated Slit, and survived. Really, you can never tell what's going to happen in this world. A kid with green hair arrives. "Hey Torres, what's up? Let's smash Callie, yeah." "Hi, name's is Koji, nickname Praying Mantis." But Torres says, "Get out of here, you're interrupting my training." Koji replies, "What's up? You're not coming with us." Torres thinks, if that kid really wants to change that much, I won't bother him. And I used to get mad and annoyed because he acted like a loser. But look at him now. His ribs are fully healed and he's back to exercising in the same time it took them to heal. Not to mention he's gained some muscle. But they went to bother Callie anyways. "Hey Callie, haven't seen you here in a while." Callie thinks, "I was wondering when you would show up." Koji asks, "It was fun winning easily, wasn't it?" Callie warns him, "Man, don't start that. It'll be a hassle if you get hurt." Koji gets mad. Callie, if you're here disguising your fear, relax. I'll go easy on you." Callie corrects him, "No, you idiot. It'll be a hassle if you get hurt." Koji calls him trash and tries to hit him, but he just dodges. Dodges another, and then takes one on the chin too. Thinking, this kid must have thought I won by chance. Such idiots. Towering height, impressive reach. It's like facing someone with a spear. Punches that allow no approach. Long reach, very advantageous. But the Mantis has a wide movement, a curved swing. He strikes from the sides. He's not taking any advantage of all that reach. In the end, he's just a big punching bag and falls to the ground. I just need to not give this guy any opening and take another hit. The guys are all pissed, just keep the pressure, dodge, and take. To this damn kid, 3 against 1, he dodges again, damn. Then Koji says, "Kid, don't get cocky just because you landed that punch on me." Then Callie told Ven, "You guys are coming in 3 because you know you can't handle it alone, right?" "Shut up, you shit," he throws another. But then he dodges and suddenly takes a knee in the back. Callie thinks, damn, they ignore the others and are just beating me to boost their ego. He falls to the ground and remembers. To be honest, I wasn't much different. But Torres tells them, "I can't take this shit anymore. If you're going to beat someone up, do it right. Why don't you fight him alone, huh?" Koji was confused. "Torres, why are you on Callie's side?" But he replies, "I'm not on anyone's side. I'm just pissed at the asshole who was defeated by Callie and is now acting like that." The scene changes to Callie and Koji fighting. And Callie saying, "You're just wasting your talent. Your movement is too wide. You're all flawed." He takes one on the chin. Torres thinks he acts like an experienced boxer and his kid has potential. His father was a champion. Callie asks, "Torres, I thought you hated me. Why did you help me?" Torres turns around and says, "I have no reason to explain myself to you. Get out of my sight, kid." But after that, nobody ever challenged Callie again. They silently acknowledged that Callie was now among the best in that training camp. In the guest reception room of the August mansion, the owner is speaking. Don't worry, proceed with the fight as usual. Nixer is at the door, afraid that the Baron has made the same mistake. He enters and says, Master, I told you to refuse this. Why did you accept this fight? The Baron punches the table. Can't you make it happen? Anyway, Dorman didn't bring any real boxer. We will win if you train the kids right. Nixer warns, this situation only has two outcomes. Either we prepare the worst to get beaten, or we send our best and risk everything. The Baron yells at him saying it's an order, choose the best. I want to see Dorman lose his patience. But Nixer is angry, thinking, when will he realize that he is the reason this training center is destroyed? If veterans like Torres can no longer fight, this field will end. 4 days, I must prepare these kids for this competition. He then speaks to the boys, Torres, Koji, and Callie. I have decided to train you 3 and put you in a fight against Dorman. You were chosen because you are those whom the instructors believe have the highest potential. Torres asks, Instructor, do you think our team will win? Nixer remembers the Baron giving the order to take the 3 best and go. He sighs and says, You have a ridiculously low chance of winning. Koji asks, Hey, we're not going to die, are we? Nixer tells him, Relax. The Master also won't let you die because you're his property. But the opponents might end up breaking your bones or doing whatever they want. Callie then says, But if you called us, it means you believe there's a chance, right? Nixer says yes, and that they will start now. Torres, go now and train with all our instructors non-stop. Your practice will be to gain more experience in 3 days. Mantis, Koji, you have to find a way to deal with your fear. You need a training for your mind. He then turns to Callie and says, I only chose you because your appearance recently looks good, so I have nothing prepared for you. Since that's the case, you'll have to manage. Callie says, okay, but I need someone to assist me in training. The scene shifts to Torres getting hit in the face. The instructor speaking, Torres, your opponents are experienced fighters, but they are human. No matter how strong they are, if you hit them enough, they will fall. You have to enter the fight as if you were there to win. Even if you're broken and crumbling, you have to make the opponent think you're immortal. Well, that's all for now. We'll continue later. Torres looks at Callie, who's leaning against a wall. He wonders what Callie thinks he's doing. The boy with Callie asks, Are you crazy? Do you want me to throw this at you? But Callie says, Just do it already. The boy then agrees, preparing to throw the stone. He throws it and Callie dodges, thinking, I need to train my reflexes. That's the most important weapon for me right now. Callie then grabs a stone coming towards his face and says, Enough, that's all for today. I know practicing reflexes is good training for a boxer. In one of the rooms, a boy says, Damn it, I want to kill them all. But a friend stops him and says, Dude, you're not the only one who's angry. Callie enters and asks, What's happening? One of them with a knife in hand says, I'm not going to forgive that bastard. Callie looks at Koji and asks, What's happening? Koji responds, And you think I know. But our protagonist insists, Just tell the truth, man. This is serious, stop joking around. Then Koji reveals the guys from Doraemon training camp came here and beat everyone up because they're angry about the fight. At least no one was seriously injured, it was just a bruise, so it's hard for the instructors to sort this out. We're going to be completely defeated, Callie. The guy with the knife, Doraemon, those bastards, I'm going to kill them. Mixer enters asking, What are you guys up to here? You're idiots, boys, already hitting one another. If you lose, it's over. Do you know why you got beaten today? Because you're weak, so get stronger from now on. Callie thinks, Now I realize after training and living with them, I've formed a bond with these guys. From now on, the fight isn't an event for the citizens, but a fight between proud and wealthy masters, and it's a competition to see which is the best training camp. 4 days later, at the August Arena, in the audience a man says, Do you see this? The stands are even shaking from so many people here. Another man says, Half the population of the entire state came here today. Facing the 3, Nixer hands out tea saying, This is to help you relax. If you think you're going to lose, just raise 2 fingers high. It's better to have your pride hurt than to never be able to fight again. The order will be Koji, Torres, Callie. Get ready. Koji asks, Am I the first coach? He responds, Yes, it's you. Now let's go. Callie calls to Koji. He turns around and asks, What's up? Callie then gives a tip, Don't let the opponent get close to you about it. But Koji responds, You're an idiot, Callie. I have to stay close to hit hard. Callie thinks, What a dumb kid, he should listen to me. Both are already heading to the ring and are announced, apprentice from the August Boxing Training Center, Koji. Everyone sees and thinks he's quite tall and still an apprentice. This guy has potential. But he's trembling there thinking, Oh crap, Then the other challenger has announced he will fight against a warrior with 14 victories from the Doraemon Training Center, the boxer Bass. Looks like they've invented steroids by the looks of it. Bass says, "Hey kid, you know that long arms and legs don't make you strong, right?" Koji is already trembling. While Taurus thinks, "Aw crap, Koji is freaking out." While Callie doesn't seem to believe much either. In the nobility area, the two barons are taking jabs at each other. Baron Derriman says that the boy from August looks like a child, but August retorts that only the fight will show what happens. But inside, he's thinking, "Damn it, Nixer, why didn't you send someone who would win this damn fight?" Then the fight begins. Bass immediately goes for Koji, closing the distance, trying to land a punch on his face, which Koji narrowly dodges. The audience boos Koji, shouting, "Mantis, you just dodge, man. No one came here to watch this trash fight." Down below, Koji, still trembling, thinks, "If you want to see a pretty fight, come here and make it happen." It's easy to talk from there, isn't it? Bass advances on him again, asking, "How long are you going to keep running away, kid?" At that moment, Koji sees a punch and thinks it will hit his face, so he raises his guard, but the punch actually lands squarely in the middle of his chest. It sinks in with the force of Bass's fist, who then mocks him for falling for such a pathetic trick. Before Koji can react, he receives another hit in the face. Then Koji falls hard to the ground. The audience is not enjoying the show, shouting, "This is boxing, get up, kid. If you're going to fight like that, you'd have been better off dead." But Koji, all beaten up, thinks, "I'm not getting up no matter what. How am I going to win this fight?" The count begins, 10, 9, 8. Just then, Koji thinks it would be easier to give up, until he sees the Baron staring at him. Knowing he could be sent to the mines, which would be worse than getting beaten here, he gets up, thinking, "If I lose without throwing a single punch, I'll be kicked out of the center." Bass says, "So you feel like fighting now, kiddo?" Koji responds, "Shut up, I'm also a boxer, you filth." He tries to remain calm, recalling what the instructor had told him. "Mantis, I heard you lost to Callie. Is that true?" He admits it's true. Nixer then asks him, "Have you ever thought about why you lost?" Koji says he hasn't. Nixer explains, "I didn't see it myself, but I'm sure it wasn't a fight you should have lost. You have a very advantageous condition as a boxer, tall, with long arms and legs. It seems like you don't know how to use what you have well. You probably lost your cool and got impatient, which is why you let Callie get close to you. If you do that in this fight, you'll lose as well." With that, he recovers nicely, thinking, "I can't be afraid, I can't let him get close, I need to intercept the attack." Once again, Bass charges. But this time, Koji manages to take advantage of his long reach and lands a punch on his face. Everyone is impressed and Callie praises him. Koji is ecstatic. "I landed my first attack, it worked." Now confident, he starts throwing a barrage of punches. With such distance, the opponent struggles to get close. Callie thinks, as I suspected, he has a lot of flexibility, and now that he's released the muscle stress, his attacks are very threatening. Compared to before, he's doing much better. Bass charges again, but now he's the one having doubts. "I'm ready to hit this guy, but he's too tall. I can't find an angle. I'll just defend until I find an opening." Then he sees an opportunity and says, "My punch hurts more than yours." However, Koji dodges and says, "Got you?" landing a punch on the guy's forehead and putting him on the ground. Koji looks around, looks at the coach and celebrates, "I won, all happy." The audience can't understand how he turned the fight around out of nowhere. Meanwhile, Baron August takes the opportunity to needle Derriman. Even his daughter is embarrassed. Derriman says there are still 2 rounds, so nothing is settled yet. The Baron then raises his hand, signaling the boy next to him, and says, "Tell Nixer I don't care if they die, just win this thing. Whoever loses today goes to the mine." Nixer receives the message and informs everyone, "You heard? He said he'll send the loser to the mine, but he's drunk right now, so I'll change his mind later. But understand this risk exists. If you're in danger, it's better to surrender." Torres stands up, defiantly stating, "No need, because I'm going to win." Callie, observing him, thinks Torres really has a fighter's spirit, but that guy named Muga, I think he's on a different level. Torres' opponent is far more experienced than he is. And as he enters the ring, he advises, "I'm going to give you a piece of advice, Torres. I'm different from Bass. If you don't want to get hurt, give up now." But Torres cuts him off. "Shut up, old man, let's fight." And so it begins. Muga immediately comes at Torres. The exchange of punches is frenetic. Callie has no idea what will happen. Punches fly, blood sprays, Torres takes hits, then hits back. He manages to land the first few punches, taunting, "Woke up to reality, old man." But inside, he's thinking, "Even if I feel like I'm going to collapse, I need to keep acting like I'm going to win this." Muga says, "You really do look like a soldier, kid. I take back what I said." He moves into punch. Torres is confused by the movement, and it turns out to be an elbow strike, which hits him square in the face. Torres says, "Old man, don't you know elbow strikes are against the rules?" But Muga responds, "Too bad, these fights always have accidents, don't they?" Torres says, "All right then, let's play." 18 fighters have fallen to my fists, and even though I haven't become an A-level fighter, I'm proud to be a veteran. But this kid is just a mere apprentice. Why won't this kid fall? The audience wonders, thinking they're watching two wild boars fight. This fight is really good. Callie thinks they fight like barbarians but are on a completely different level. Until Muga takes another hit on the nose fireworks and Muga collapses on the ground, knocked out. Nixer says, "Good job, Torres, that was excellent. You met all the audience's expectations." Torres is battered. Callie says, "You did well, Torres." Who responds, "Callie, the honor of winning the entire victory is in your hands, kid." Confidently, Callie says, "No problem, I'll finish this here." Then the announcement is made, now the final fighters of the competition, Doraemon Fighter, with a record of 13 victories, Vorito, and the young fighter from the August training camp, Callie. The audience boos, saying, "This kid is smaller than my son," but Azalea and the people from the August training camp are cheering for him. Azalea asks Valkyrie if he knows Callie. He replies, "Yes, I helped him with training. He asked me to throw stones at him to dodge." Azalea is curious. Stones? Baron Doraemon comments, "Ridiculous. I must have let my guard down, but this kid will be easy to beat." August responds, "I left the last for you to save your reputation." While Azalea thinks, "I want to see what he'll do this time, Callie." In the ring, the two face each other. Vorito says, "Sorry, kid, but I can't let you leave unscathed," and immediately charges at him. Callie thinks, "Damn, he's much faster than I expected," steps back. This distance is dangerous. He tries to sidestep, but Vorito corners him again. Callie thinks, "He's blocking my movements, probably wants to finish me in that corner. I have to avoid this." He tries to punch, but Vorito blocks, saying, "Too weak." The audience is not enjoying the fight, shouting, "What is this crap? Fight properly, man. The kid is a child, 13 victories, my foot, land a punch, Vorito." Vorito hears this, and Callie says, "I thought you weren't going to let me leave unscathed. Why don't you try to hit me?" Vorito responds, "I know you're trying to use the audience. I don't know how you think you'll win this, but relying on the audience will only hasten your defeat." And then he attacks once more. Callie tries to dodge left, then right, but Vorito is always close. He manages to evade. The audience is confused by how well he's surviving, while Baron Doraemon is furious that Vorito can't even hit a child, thinking, "I'll have to kill this trash after this." Azalea is there thinking, "He's not a normal apprentice, you silly. Show everyone who you are, Callie." Vorito comes in to try and land a hit. Callie starts to get used to his movement patterns. He always starts with a right-hand strike. He dodges a left hook, upper right. He remembers his training, his friend asking, "Hey man, are you just going to train dodging?" Callie had responded, "Look at my body. You think I can take a hit? If I get punched, I'll be knocked down." But his friend countered, "I understand, but you won't win without throwing a punch." Back in the fight, he's thinking, dodging is buying time. Time for what? Time to observe movements to learn patterns, the foot he uses to prepare for an attack, how he uses his chest, shoulder, waist to prepare for the punch. After that, it's just about figuring out the pattern for a counterattack. I don't know if my glass body will hold, but I have experience and I have sharp vision. Vorito comes in again. Callie dodges and goes for a hit in the face, succeeding with a cross that sends Vorito stumbling back. The audience is confused and his friend thinks, "Damn, was it true? He really learned this guy's pattern." Vorito tries to get up, thinking, "What the hell was that?" Callie is staring silently, pleading for him not to get up, thinking, "My right hand is busted. At most, I can throw just one more punch with it." Vorito punches the ground. "You bastard, I'm going to get you." Callie thinks, "Now I'm in trouble." Vorito decides to play dirty, no matter how fast this kid is, and throws sand in his eyes. Now let's see him dodge without being able to see. Azalea shouts, "That's cheating." But Doraemon says it's his fault for letting it happen. It's normal to get sand on your hands after getting up. Callie thinks, "Damn it, I can't get used to this dirty boxing at all." After taking a punch to the face and flying to the other side. He touches his nose, feeling the hit. Damn, that hurts a lot. Then he stands up, eyes closed, imagining. As Vorito advances, saying, "It's the end for you, scum." Callie reflects, "I just need to stay calm. The analysis is done. He always starts the same way with a right-hand punch. Dodge, now his chin will probably be here. And with that, he lands a precise punch blind." Callie raises his hand. Azalea thinks, Is this what I traveled all this way for? Callie celebrating, Nixer says, to think all of you would win, huh? After this fight, Baron Dorman left the territory as if fleeing, and as a reward, the Baron paid for a barbecue for everyone. 2 months later, the harvest season arrived. Koji drops a box of potatoes on the ground. Damn, do these guys think we're farmers? Callie says, don't complain, this is perfect for gaining muscle. Callie's body underwent many changes. The farmers came to thank them. Thank you for all the hard work, Callie. You're free to take some. Callie thanks them. Thank you, sirs. The farmer then asks, by the way, are you going to Duke Wistery's Autumn Festival? Koji says, no, we're apprentices. We can only leave here after a year. The sirs respond, is that so? I was dying to see your fights again. With that, they leave, and Callie asks, hey, Koji, what is this Autumn Festival? Koji explains, are you dumb? The highlight of this festival is boxing. Our master is one of Duke Wistery's vassals. Didn't you know that Dorman and August are competing against each other for the Duke's sponsorship? But Dorman is currently leading all this. Callie says he understands. Koji teases him, saying, you little pest, you must have taken a blow to the head back then, huh? Callie looks towards the mansion thinking, wow, but an entire year? Are they really going to wait all that time? The scene shifts to them discussing with the Baron. Please, one more year, master. We won that match, but it was because they didn't know us and we had a bit of luck. The Baron responds, a letter from the Duke has arrived, Nixer. He's heard of our last victory. As much as I'd like to give you more time, Duke Wistery wants to see these 3 apprentices. If I refuse, things will get complicated. Nixer thinks damn Duke Wistery is one of the biggest names in the entire kingdom. The Baron can't say no. He then says, I understand. The Baron warns, Nixer, we're leaving tomorrow. Be prepared. From now on, those 3 will be official boxers, so brand them. They then receive the mark indicating they are now professional boxers. Callie says, this thing still hurts, but I can fight anyway, as they set off. Azalea speaking to Callie, congratulations, I heard you're now a professional boxer. Thanks to that, you now have the honor of walking alongside a noble. He responds, thank you. All friends are blushing as they look on. She says, I think you must have changed a lot right after everything at the festival. Koji says, man, isn't she a babe? Those intense red hair, seductive lips, she's a beauty even from afar. Callie thinks, yeah, she really is beautiful. But Torres warns Koji, be careful, if the master hears you saying that, you'll be punched to death. Koji asks, since when do you care about me? Torres then says, Callie, the truth is he likes her. They keep arguing and Callie tells them to quiet down. They then stop to rest for a bit. Koji says, this mountain path is awful, bugs everywhere. Callie responds, who would have thought the bridge would have collapsed due to the rain? Yeah, the problem is we might encounter bandits here. The Baron then says to Azalea, look, the sun sets quickly in the mountains, so you sleep first, girl. The Baron then tells the soldier tying up the horse, we're leaving as soon as dawn breaks. The knight warns, bandits might already be hiding in the bushes. It's harvest season. It would be best if we left as soon as possible. However, the Baron tells him to shut up and says, I'm paying your salary to fight off the bandits if they appear. At that moment, Callie senses something. Wait, what's that presence? Hey, something moved in that bush. We should leave now. The Duke loses his temper. What? A mere slave boy dares to give me orders. It's too late. A soldier is already hit in the eye with an arrow. A barrage of arrows begins and everyone tries to run. Some shout to protect the Baron. Nixer calls them, come this way. Callie notices the arrows have stopped. He takes a look and sees a bunch of bandits. He tells Nixer, the soldiers aren't enough. Unlock our handcuffs so we can fight. Koji says, me too. They are unshackled, but Nixer warns, only engage those who come close because our priority is to protect the Baron and the lady. Suddenly, someone appears behind saying, found you, and makes a move that Callie blocks with the hilt of his hand, and then hits the attacker in the face before turning and saying, don't just stand there, let's go. Torres thinks this kid is insane, he's definitely not normal. Callie runs with one goal, to find Azalea. The Baron is screaming, asking to be let go. Callie runs past, and the Baron informs him that Azalea is still in the carriage. He heads towards the carriage, but sees a man approaching fast. He says, hey, stop there. The man turns, smiles. He tries to hit Callie, who defends again with the chain. Then the man opens the carriage door. Azalea screams in shock. Callie is startled, and the man exits with her in his arms, semi-conscious, and flees immediately. The Baron shouts, Azalea, someone rescue her. Callie goes alone. All right, I'm on it. But the man runs towards a cliff. Our hero tells him, stop, you idiot. You've got nowhere to go. Let her go. The man says, kid, you seem to be a slave. Why don't you join us, huh? Callie asks, "What kind of recruitment is this? You're pointing a weapon at me. If I follow you, will I end up dead like every other bandit?" The thief responds, then the talk is over. Our hero notices this guy's movements are too rehearsed and asks Gladiator. The bandit confirms yes with 42 victories and goes for the attack. Our hero is frightened. A one-on-one fight will be tough with this guy. He dodges and moves back. The bandit is confused. Did this guy run away? But when he looks, Callie has already grabbed Azalea and is running. Without a second thought, he jumps off the cliff thinking, why fight when I can run? They fall into the water. Azalea wakes up a while later with Callie calling her name. She gets up and he is relieved. Phew, finally you woke up. After a while, she says, I got the situation. You better remember that guy with the eye patch who hit me. Callie feels quite proud. To think the desert camouflage techniques would come in handy. Azalea looks at him and says, I'm really cold, light a fire at least. But he explains that it's not possible. The trees are too wet to be lit. Not to mention that guy might end up finding them. She calls him useless. Callie notices she's shivering from the cold. Her clothes are wet and lowering her body temperature. So he explains, Azalea, if you keep those wet clothes on, you'll catch a cold. Your body will warm up faster if you take them off. Naturally, she takes this the wrong way. He says she's got it all wrong. He just thinks it's better to do this than to die of cold. He'll turn his back so he won't see. Ila retorts, you're being quite bold, aren't you? Callie responds, I have to protect you from now on. If anything happens to you, I'll be killed. Shyly, she warns, you better not look back. If you do, I'll stab you with my blade. Our hero replies, all right, all right. Internally, he's thinking, don't imagine anything, better not to think too much about this. Then she tosses her wet clothes onto a rock and he asks, are you feeling better now? But she's still shivering. Even without her response, he knew she wasn't okay. After all, he was freezing too. He then says, I know what the solution is. We have to use our body heat to warm up. She insists she's fine. However, he ignores her and starts doing push-ups to warm up. She asks Callie, what are you doing? But he stands up without looking at her, sits down beside her and pulls her close, leaving her confused. What are you doing? He says, I already told you we need to stay close to stay warm. I heard this is what soldiers do in the winter when they're dying of cold. I know you don't like this, but I'll die if anything happens to you. With that, they spend the night in the cave. The next day, they're walking in the forest. He says, this area seems safe. Can you walk okay? She asks, why? If I can't, will you carry me? Callie realizes, so she's so mad, Her stomach growls and she's a bit embarrassed. I couldn't help it. We haven't eaten anything since yesterday. Our hero says, you mentioned you had a knife, right? Next scene, he's slicing a small fish. They eat, and he says, if we follow the stream upwards, we'll reunite with the others. She asks, but what if we run into the bandits again? Callie says, unfortunately, that's going to be a matter of luck. There's nothing we can do. She calls him irresponsible, but he retorts, I'm doing my best here. All that's left is for us to rely on a bit of luck. Azalea glances at him. This kid, he doesn't look like a slave, nor does he look like a boy. I'm sure he hasn't studied or had any education, but it's comfortable being around him. Mysterious boy, she thinks. Callie turns asking, did you say something? No. Pay attention to where you're walking, kid. Then the bandit who nearly kidnapped her is seen muttering, I was going to sell her for a good amount. That brat, I'll finish you if I see you again. At that moment, he hears something behind. Look who's passing by. Callie reassures her, we'll reunite with the soldiers soon. Azalea replies, you said it 3 times already. Seeing this, the bandit thinks it's a godsend opportunity. He appears, saying, look what we have here. Good to see you again, boy. Callie steps in front and the bandit asks, you're going to fight barehanded? Stupid boy. After I kill you, I'll take that delicious thing behind you. Of course, before I sell her, I'll have to have some fun. Our hero says, you're quite the dreamer, buddy? Who said I'm handing her over to you. But internally he's thinking, damn, I don't even have my chains to defend myself anymore. The bandit says, you bastard, just wait, I'm about to cut you. The first slash nearly hits. Callie narrowly dodges. The bandit says, you're quick, but let's see how long you can keep up. He attempts another strike, but Callie dodges, ducks a side slash, and the guy turns and kicks him, thrown far onto the ground by the kick. Azalea screams, Callie, be careful. When he opens his eyes, the blade is nearly upon his face, and he rolls to the side. Darn, I only have my hands while he has a lethal weapon and a greater reach. But I know how I'll win this. The same way you overcome someone with long arms, you have to get in close against long weapons. With that, he charges towards the bandit, who says, crazy kid, you're charging towards death. He dodges the slash and lands a solid hook to the rib. making the man tremble. Enraged, the bandit attempts another slash but misses and says, "You think you're something because you landed a punch." Callie thinks, "All I need now is the courage to face a blade head-on and a strategy to move forward." He charges again. The man attempts a side slash. Callie dodges to the other side. "This brat, he's always in my blind spot." He finds another flaw in the bandit's defense and lands a punch right on the chin. Spitting blood, Callie grabs him by the shoulder and pushes him to the ground, lands a punch right in the middle of the nose, follows with an elbow strike. Thinking, "Darn, I'm at my limit," both fall and the blade lands beside the man's hand. "Bastard, I'll kill you." However, Azalea picks up the sword and says, "Now pay for your crimes," and stabs him without hesitation, declaring 1,000 deaths would not be enough, continuously striking. Callie thinks she's really crazy. After dealing with the leader, the soldiers find them and they are saved. Amidst it all, Callie gets a cut on his nose. Nixer says, "You're lucky, kid. If you were taller, you'd have been blinded." Callie says, "Now my face looks more masculine." The Baron comes to thank him. "Thank you for rescuing my daughter, boy." Callie is impressed by the Baron thanking the slave and says, "It's okay, sir. I just did my task." But the Baron says, "Rest, you've earned it." Now those guys, those scoundrels, don't do any work at all. You're a young man who had to do what a warrior was hired to do. Koji then asks, "Anyway, you be a splendid gladiator. What kind of technique did you use?" Callie says having a weak appearance has its advantages. The opponent always lowers their guard. Koji says, "Don't lie, kid, you be a gladiator. We were even allowed to travel by carriage." Finally, they arrive at the Duchy of Ustra. Duke Ustra greets the Baron. "It's been a while, Baron August. It must have been a long journey." The Baron responds, "Thank you for having us, sir." The Duke then says, "Azalea is also here. You really remind me a lot of your mother, girl." She thanks him. "Thank you, Sir Duke." Callie is there in the background. Earlier, she had told him, "One of my servants is ill, so you'll have to take me there. You're the only one suitable for this, since everyone else is muscular and too aggressive." Hearing this, he thought, "I guess I really need to train more." At the table, the Duke is saying, "Ah, true. August won 3 matches in the last boxing fight. I heard they were all apprentices." August says, I'm not trying to boast here, but recently they've become official boxers." The Duke responds, "Look at that, as expected from your excellent training camp." The conversation goes on, Azalea bored with the place. She whispers something to her father, then turns and says, "Callie, follow me." The scene shifts to them walking in the city. She says, "I would have suffocated if I stayed any longer in that place. I didn't even want to come here because these old men only talk about boring stuff." Callie says, "Hey, you seem upset." She explains, "It's because my father is obsessed with finding me a husband. Isn't it terrible that I'll be tied to someone I don't want?" Callie responds, "I don't really know what to say in this situation." But Azalea declares, "I won't let that happen, Callie. Oh, this is a local delicacy. I bet you've never tasted anything like this." Callie thinks, "Really? The only sweet I've tasted here was fruit. Well, this is really good." Azalea gets convinced and Callie becomes shy. She is very beautiful and attracts many gazes, but then there's that old woman staring at him. The old woman approaches, asking the beautiful lady if she can read her fortune. Our protagonist says, "Hey, let's go, Azalea." However, she's intrigued. "No, I want to hear this." Knowing about destiny sounds interesting and heads towards the tent, all excited. The old woman offers to do it for free. They enter and Azalea is fascinated. So, this is a fortune teller's tent. Callie, however, senses something off. What's this old lady planning? As she touches the orb, she says, It seems your life won't be peaceful. You will face many ups and downs." Azalea responds, "Oh my god, how incredible. I live an interesting life. If it were like everyone else's, it wouldn't be fun. Now tell me about my marriage and fortunes." Callie thinks, "God, fortune tellers are the same everywhere." The fortune teller says, "Your partner seems to be very close to you, but it won't be a love blessed by everyone." Azalea becomes a bit shy, and our protagonist is somewhat lost. The fortune teller then looks at the protagonist. "Shall I include a reading for this young man? What do you think?" However, he responds, "No, I'm good." But Azalea insists, "Hey, don't be a spoilsport. It's free." So the fortune teller does a reading for Callie, saying, "I see a place so distant, a place that people here can't even imagine." Callie asks, "What's this place like?" The fortune teller answers, I can't quite say. I'm just speaking of what I see." Azalea asks, "What do you see?" The fortune teller tries to describe something like a carriage, but metallic, a human talking in a box of glass. Callie is confused. Wait, is she actually seeing my past? The fortune teller says, You have a very unusual aura around you, as if you have the spirit of a guardian by your side." Azalea says, wow, maybe that's why you're a boxer. It seems to be the reason for your victories. But Callie replies, that's a myth. Only an idiot would believe in those things. She gets a bit angry, saying, I know about these things too. You don't need to lecture me, and leaves the tent. He stands up saying, Miss Azalea, that's not what I meant. Ah, the old lady looks at him and thinks, a slave. Impossible for someone with such vibrant energy to end up a slave. For 3 days, he had to endure her moods throughout the castle, until it was time to go where the other slaves were. He thought he would finally have peace, but a soldier stopped him and scoffed, what? The skinny guy is a boxer. Boy, you're a boxer. My son is a hunting dog. Callie was confused. Why are these guys looking to pick a fight with me? He then asks, can I go through? The guy says, sure, yeah, go on, crawl under my legs. They both laugh mockingly, and Callie asks, have you ever been punched by a boxer, or are you looking to find out? The soldier loses his temper. How dare a slave, and goes to strike. But someone interrupts, asking, what do you think you're doing? The Duke arrives, and the soldiers explain, Your Excellency, this slave, he. The Duke cuts them off. This boy is my guest and belongs to Baron Auguste. Are you trying to tarnish my name? The soldiers walk away sheepishly. The Duke looks at Callie. I didn't realize you were a boxer when I saw you. You're one of the three, aren't you? Callie confirms, I am. The Duke then notes, well, your shoulder muscles are well developed, but to beat a gladiator with that, what are you hiding? Our protagonist is somewhat confused. The Duke cracks a little smile and says, sorry, it's just that I really like boxing, kid. Forget about this, okay? I'll keep an eye on you during the fight, you know. Callie is left wondering, what was that all about? Meanwhile, at the lodging for slaves and boxers, everyone is training. Callie says, when you're overthinking, the solution is training. Doing one-handed push-ups, impressive. Torres comes over and asks, so did you enjoy your 3 days at the castle? Callie responds, I thought I was going to die if I had stayed there, that's for sure. Nixer says, wow, this place is impressive. These kids have grown so much since the last time I saw them. They have the strongest boxers of Doraemon. If we're lucky, we might avoid fighting them. The number chart could be completed before our fight. Torres asks, instructor, is it really luck that we're not fighting? Nixer explains, for now, yes, it's too early for you to fight the boxers from this place. Suddenly, Torres challenges him. Are you telling me to just rot from training? I'm ready to beat those guys. Nixer gives him a stern look. Don't make me laugh, kid. You're still a child and would be killed in the preliminaries. You really need to learn your place. When a boxer has dozens of consecutive victories, it means he has a lot of people under his feet. If it weren't for this fight, I would kill you guys. Torres apologizes, sir, I was wrong. Nixer says, no matter how strong someone is, one wrong move and it's the end. Koji says, I'm worried about you. At that moment, everyone hears a commotion. It's the ogre of Doraemon has arrived. Nixer, the ogre. When people look, 3 meters, 4 meters, Nixer is scared. My god, Doraemon really went all out to bring this monster. Koji is trembling. Hold on, is that guy even human? Nixer explains, everyone calls him a monster. Callie looking thinks, don't mess with me. It really looks like an ogre out of the fantasy book. The ogre of Doraemon, a warrior with 76 victories in 1 year. According to rumors, he tears his opponent's limbs off with his hands. His nickname really suits him. Koji says, hey coach, isn't that dangerous, man? Everyone will give their best, but what if we have to fight this ogre? The coach tries to explain, our master probably chose to fight where this ogre won't go. It might happen, but the chances are small. However, I can't guarantee. Even Torres is speechless. That nickname isn't exaggerated. The guy is of another race. What is that? Koji, trembling, says, Callie, your punch won't even reach that guy. And looks at Callie and he's there thinking of a plan. Alright, my fist won't reach his chin, and even if it does, it won't have the strength. What do I have to do? I have to make him lower his body as much as possible, but how? Wait, maybe I need to tire him out and then hit the leg? No, but still, I don't know. Koji can't believe it. Wait, is he thinking about how he's going to beat that monster? Sometimes I think you, Callie, are the weird monster. The barons and all the guests are staring at the list of fights. The schedule is available. Make sure to check your location precisely. Well, see you soon. Nixer asks why one of the guys put some fighter to go against the ogre. August explains, it seems they lost to apprentices and he got mad, so it was basically a death sentence. Mixer says, right, well, let's see, Torres on the first day, Callie and Kijo on the second. The only thing we can hope for now is for the viewers to leave a like on this video to help Mamoru. Thank you so much to watch my brothers. Ring that bell to catch on the next Saya. Do you remember that Callie and his friends, along with the instructor and the Baron, went to a championship where there's this thing called the Giant Ogre? August and Nixar are in a room with all the dukes, seeing who's going to fight who. Nixar looks and says, Tor is on the first day, Callie and Kiju on the second, and the Ogre on the first, but fortunately, not against us. The Baron says, phew, thankfully, we're lucky it's not us. We're already on the first day of fighting in the boxing stadium. It's going to be a nobody against the Ogre. He steps on the guy while the guy is scared, saying, don't come over here. But the Ogre is already coming to hit him. He crouches there, scared to death, even with his hands on his head. And the Ogre just destroys everything. His Baron says, Ogre, you idiot, I told you not to break the corner posts. He's thinking. He'd had good one, Ogre, let everyone know how strong you are. Callie looking now, I understand why this guy is called Ogre. Kidro trembling, not knowing what to say, this guy really looks like an ogre, my god. While the audience screams, kill him, kill him. But the poor guy in the arena is just suffering. He starts begging, please, Ogre, I surrender, man, let me escape. The Ogre replies, the audience wants death, already coming to punch him, bam, blood puddle, the audience goes crazy. Callie game, I've seen a lot of people die in my past life, but nothing was as horrendous as this. It's just tearing the guy apart, being torn apart. The guy looks like a discarded body being ripped apart by a beast. Callie thinks, well, at least you can tell this Ogre absolutely has no technique. It must have some form. Koji says, you're still trying to figure out how you're going to beat him, right? Callie replies, nah, I'm just glad I don't have to fight this guy. Koji, don't even think about useless things, you sicko. You die too quickly. Torres replies, man, failing against this guy is the same as dying. Nobody leaves the ring alive with him. In the arena, the Ogre is holding the guy by the head, body all limp. The Javali de August, according to his title, Torres never backed down, and after a fierce fight in the last match of the day, he emerged victorious. Tor is all happy and Callie thinks, tomorrow it's going to be me standing there. He hears Azalea asking, Callie, do you happen to like men? He replies, no, but why did you ask that? She explains, it's just that wherever I go, there are always a bunch of guys hitting on me, but you never tried anything, and you're always so calm. Are you afraid or something? Callie doesn't respond properly and she changes the subject. Well, I heard that most boxers die on the first day of fighting. Maybe it is our last day together, you know. Callie says, I'm not a noble like you, Azalea. I don't have much to lose even if I die. She says she understands, you're a brave, hard-headed guy. Well, I guess to be a boxer, you have to be like that, right? If you win tomorrow, you better dedicate that victory to me. And she tosses an apple to him, saying, you can count on it. I'll win. Don't even worry. We're already here, the big drum beating and everyone in the arena. It's time for Callie's fight, and he's thinking, I'm almost ready. The second day has arrived. Nixar to him and thinks this kid's body has changed a lot. He's got muscles on his shoulders, on his back. Before, he was just a skinny kid. And with that, they announced the first guy. The veteran boxer with an impressive 21 victories. The Iron Wall of the teen Vardaman. And his opponent is a small boy, but with a victory against a veteran. A rookie boxer from the training camp, August. Callie, and everyone boos him. Boo. I didn't come here to see my son get beaten up. Get out of there, kid. Azalea from above says, win this, Callie, for love's sake. But a guy next to her says, such an obvious outcome, right? That skinny kid would never win. Not to mention that the Iron Wall is a guy I'm looking to buy, and he's one of the contenders for the champion title. Azalea thinks, here come these annoying guys. That's why I didn't even want to be in this place. She replies, pretending to be knave. Really? I think that little boy's going to win. The guy says to her, miss, you know nothing about boxing. Weight and physique are extremely important. It's a bit embarrassing for a noble like me to say this. However, I have experience with street fights. Azalea thinks, what a sick guy, this isn't something to be proud of. And then she says, shall we make a bet then? I bet everything on that skinny kid. If I lose, I'll spend some time with you. Brotha, this girl is betting on herself, now that's confidence in the protagonist. The guy gets excited. Really? Okay then. If I lose, what do I do? She says, I saw a very nice ruby necklace in your family's store. How about that? The guy agrees, understood. Perfect. He thanks Lady Azalea. This is too easy. This girl is already falling for me, making a bet she knows she'll lose. What a delicious bet. Back in the ring, the two are already facing each other. The Iron Wall says, kid, I'm going to end this quickly, okay? It's your master's fault for putting you in this. Our protagonist says to him, it's all the same, right? You and everyone else. You're better at making threats than fighting. Come on then. The Iron Wall agrees and charges, saying, let's see, kid. Callie dodges the first punch and thinks as expected. The guy's muscles are as tough as metal, and the neck is thick. Even if I hit his chin, he won't be dazed. The guy keeps coming relentlessly, and Callie dodges here and there. And the opponent says, "We're just dodging, kid. If that's how it is, I'll have to eliminate your escape route." He inhales and comes at Callie with a sequence to corner him. The guy next to Azalea says, "Miss, it looks like our bet has already been decided." But he's confused what's going on. The audience is also shocked. Callie is dodging everything. The opponent wonders what's going on. Why? How come I can't hit anything? The guy next to Azalea then hears someone nearby saying, "Wait, that skinny guy. If I'm not mistaken, I heard he defeated Doraemon's apprentice with his eyes closed. Now he's scared. Darn it, that's not what I planned." Ah, Azalea is having so much fun now. And the audience is still going crazy. Callie is thinking, now is the time to knock him out with a single punch? Should I accumulate damage to wear down his muscles? Can I endure all of this? Never. Or maybe ribs. The guy is exhausted. Our hero sees the opportunity. Now's my chance. I won't hesitate. He goes for it and lands a punch right in the ribs, breaking a few. Mixer is confused. Wait, what kind of technique is this? Did he plan how he was dodging to land this punch? He's perfectly balancing between defense and evasion. And another. Clearly, the hard muscle work is paying off. This is a fighting style that the once skinny kid could never have dreamed of. A punch that doesn't rely on the opponent's body, just Callie's strength. The opponent is already spitting blood. Callie appears beside him and lands another on the chin. The audience now shouts, "Go kid. Beat him, you can do it." The guy who made the bet is already getting up there angrily. And in the fight, Callie thinks that armor of muscles little by little is going to break. This guy is weakening. The enemy comes in for a hit from above, but Callie dodges to the side and lands one in the middle of the back. The opponent doesn't even understand what's happening. What the heck kind of punches that man? It's like a spear. Every time he hits me, a pain is sharp. While Callie keeps landing precise blows. And then another. Dodges the next hit and lands one right in the middle of the face. Azalea is in disbelief. Callie thinks, it's now. It's time to end this. He lands another right in the middle of the face and the opponent is all dizzy, spitting blood. Completely lost. Bam, he falls hard. Our boy raises his arm and celebrates. While the bettor thinks, impossible. Azalea says, "Looks like I won a certain bet. That necklace. I'll be waiting for it." The guy leaves all pissed off. Damn it. The Baron up there celebrates. This kid is my boxer. I invested well. Everyone is kind of embarrassed. He looks down at the ring. Callie puts his hand on his chest, raises his hand in that direction. The Baron thinks it's for him. Look at the victory he offers me. He knows the debts he has with me. But Azalea knows it's for her and she's all happy. While Callie says, "Azalea, I did it. I got stronger." Next chapter, Nixer is talking. "Good match, kid. The audience and the nobles also really enjoyed your fight." Callie thanks them, and when he grabs a cloth, his hand releases it due to a muscle spasm. Mixer says, "Wet it in the water." His hand is all torn up. The instructor says, "Yeah, you're still a kid." Callie stares at his reflection in the water. Damn, this body is still weak. I didn't imagine my hand would get so destroyed just from those punches. Torres says, "Still got that glass body, Callie, but I thought you were only good at using your head. But that punch of yours was good. Koji, if Callie won, then I'm gonna win too. Right. Torres responds, "Stop being weird." Mixer warns him, "Breathe, Koji. You want to lose without throwing a punch, kid." But Koji replies, "My ears, they're ringing just from the sound of the audience. I can't breathe. I'm suffocating, man. This is insane." Callie understands he's having a panic disorder. Not surprising considering his personality. So he says, "Koji, don't think too much about it, man. Just dodge backward and use your long arms like you did last time." Koji asks, "Do you think that's possible, Callie?" The scene changes to him celebrating. "Yeah, I won. This guy is annoying as hell." He comes happily celebrating, "Callie, I really won and thanks for the advice." Callie responds, "No problem." But now Koji is confident, saying, "I'm strong, I'm smart, I'm the best." Callie thinks Koji is a bit of an idiot. The scene changes to Azalea saying, "You should have seen how his face looked. He ran off like a red tomato." Callie asks, "What have I lost, huh?" She replies, "You assured me you would win. That's why I was confident." Callie says she's trusting him too much. And she says, "I'll take that as a compliment. Let's go already." With that, they leave the room and the Baron comes to talk to her. "Azalea, you have a visitor." She asks, "Visitor? And why the rush?" The Baron explains, "Count Joseph's second son. He wants to see you." She makes a face like she didn't like it very much, and the scene changes. The betting guy saying, "So, you're the lady of the August family. And I found you while looking for a beautiful lady with red hair. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Count Joseph's second son, Valen Joseph." She thinks about how stupid the guy is now that he introduced himself as part of the Joseph family. He's confident since Count Joseph is very powerful even among the central nobility. "Now I understand why my father was in such a hurry. He wants this guy to be my husband." The Count's son says, "Here's the ruby necklace I promised you. It's an excellently crafted product indeed. It matches your beautiful hair." Azalea thinks, "Damn, this complicates things even more," and replies, "Thank you very much. You're really a man of your word. Now excuse me." But he stops her and says, "I ended up losing my bet, but it would be an honor to walk with you." Azalea gets angry thinking, this is what I was trying to avoid. She looks away not wanting to answer, but the Baron intervenes and says, "My daughter is very shy." Of course she accepts. "I'll arrange it now." The Joseph's son thanks him, and the father says they can take as much time as they want. Azalea argues with her father asking, "Dad, why did you say that? I have no intention of spending time with that guy." The Baron says, "Azalea, can't you do this for your father just this once? He may not be as bad as you think. Plus, I just want you to have a better life than the one you have at our home. Our property is depreciating." Azalea agrees, saying that it's only this once and that she won't allow him to come again. Callie thinks the Baron is pathetic. He manages a boxing field but knows absolutely nothing about boxing and is just an opportunist who wants to grab everything before his eyes. This guy's luck is that he has a mixer. Otherwise, he would have been broken already. The suitor of Azalea then recognizes Callie and says, "That boxer is from this place. No wonder she's so confident as she made that bet." Callie greets him, but as he approaches, he says he's despicable. He accuses them both of conspiring against him and calls him a filthy beggar slave. "You're lucky I won't do anything, but pay close attention to what you're getting yourself into." He pats his face with a fake smile towards Azalea and tells her they can go. Our hero clearly didn't like that. The scene changes to the two of them having a picnic with a bunch of guards around. Meanwhile, Callie is peacefully sleeping beside, thinking, is it okay to let this guy get close to her? He seems like a fake person, but today's weather is so nice. And then he ends up dozing off, remembering his past life. "Hey Park, watch out. Take that in the face, punk." Another one comes, but he returns it to the face and keeps thinking, "That's it. I just have to retaliate when I'm hit. I have the body for it. There's no one who can stand after taking a punch from me. That's what I used to think. Too bad I was too arrogant and ended up resorting to violence to feed my ego. If I could go back, I wouldn't have lived a life like that." Suddenly he wakes up startled. What dream was that? Never mind. I've been given my second chance, even if I can't go back there. At that moment, one of the maids comes running and calls for him. He asks what's wrong, and she asks for help. The scene changes. The guy tells her to stop playing hard to get because she knows how expensive that necklace was. If you receive it, you have to pay with your body at least. Azalea shouts for him to stop since she won in a bet, not because he wanted to give it, and kicks him in the groin. The guy gets pissed and slaps her, but Callie saw it all happen and ran in their direction. Some guys step in front of him saying there's no way he'll get near a master, you idiot. But Callie warns them, whoever stands in my way today won't make it home. The guys belittle him, saying he's just a crappy fighter and can't do anything in a real fight. But before finishing the sentence, one of them already takes one in the face and gets a broken finger. He runs off saying he'll call the guards and to hold him there. Our hero says the next one can come. And in the background, Azalea is telling the guy to get off her. He tells her to shut up and stop trying to interrupt the fun. Why are you resisting? But suddenly he takes a kick to the face and falls flat on the ground. The nobleman gets up asking if he has any idea what he's done. But Callie asks, "Do you even know what you're doing, you sicko?" The guy responds, "Of course I know. I know very well. I'm getting my reward for that ruby necklace." Now Callie, who had regretted his gangster life 10 seconds ago, goes for him. The nobleman continues talking about getting a reward when he takes another punch to the face. Callie grabs him by the hair and lands 2 more. He drowns him and asks, "Reward?" "All right, here's your reward." The guy begs to be saved while Callie keeps saying he's giving him the reward he wanted. "Do you think the world is yours just because you're a noble, you filthy scum?" And he continues drowning the guy. Azalea asks him to stop. He pulls the guy out of the water, who apologizes. Callie then says, "Perfect, and I hope you learned your lesson, young master." Then he turns around and asks Azalea if she's okay. She says, "Callie, do you know what you just did? He's from the Joseph family. Mango'll have to run." But the guy who had gone to get the guards arrives shouting, "Kid, you stay right there." And they say Young Master's rescue, sir. Are you okay? Callie says it doesn't matter anymore since it's too late to run. The nobleman gets out of the water and desperately tells them to arrest that boy and kill him. In the city, the rumor that the son of the Joseph family was beaten up by a slave quickly spread at the festival. Walking through the city, he thinks, our family can't be ridiculed like this. That brat has to be executed. I'll also make sure the Augusts never have any involvement in politics again. The Baron punches the table, shouting, what the hell? What am I going to do? That damn son of Joseph. How dared he touch my daughter? Nixer asks, Callie is now in custody with the guards and he's unlikely to be released. The Baron tells Nixer to consider Callie dead. I'm very grateful because he rescued my daughter, but if we save him, it's the end of our family. Nixer says he understands, unfortunately. That's the life of a slave. The door opens and Azalea enters shouting that her father has to help Callie. He saved me twice. Slave or not, you have to be a man of honor. Even beasts and dogs are rewarded for their loyalty. Are you going to do this to Callie? The Baron looks at Nixer and asks him to take care of her. Azalea shouts, I know what you're going to do. You want to get rid of Callie, don't you? Nixer warns that there's nothing more to be done since Callie went too far, and she wonders why he did it. Meanwhile, in prison, the guys ask if it's true that they're with a noble and say that he's crazy anyway. He's the hero of this place. Callie looks at the guy thinking he's not right in the head and asks why he's there. The prisoner reveals that he's there because he stole a lot, and Callie says that he's trash. But the bandit replies that at most he'll lose a hand while Callie will surely die. The guard tells them to shut up, and Callie bows his head, thinking that he missed his chance to fight again. But how could he live the rest of his life if he hadn't rescued her at that moment? He doesn't regret it. The scene shifts to the courtroom. Callie, property of August. Do you acknowledge that you assaulted Valen Joseph? There are 4 witnesses besides the victim. Does this prove your crimes? Callie says yes. The people start throwing stones and leftover food, saying, you should hang his head on the castle. Put him in the guillotine. This slave must die. The protagonist points out all the Joseph family, saying that they're just trash. What they're doing is as if they think Valen's actions against Azalea were correct. The judge then says, as ordered by the court, the slave Callie is sentenced to execution. If anyone is against it, speak now. Suddenly, Count Wistry raises his hand and says, wait before the final verdict. Can I say a few words? This slave committed a serious crime. However, as you know, we're in the middle of the festival. A period when even beggars are treated kindly. I'm not denying his crimes, I'm just saying that a battle slave should die as a battle slave. As everyone knows, there's a slave called Dorman's Ogre. I heard that Ogre has executed before, right, Baron? The Baron says yes, and that he understands what he's proposing. Wistry tells the judge. To provide entertainment for the public, I suggest that Ogre fight against criminals sentenced to death. What do you think? A novice against Ogre. This is the same as a death sentence. Ogre's owner says it really is a death sentence. Your Excellency, as a battle slave, his death will be honorable. So I request the final fight between Ogre and Callie. Not the protagonist gets scared by this. And the Count says that this can only happen if Joseph agrees. Joseph thinks for a moment and agrees it's better if I don't oppose Count Wistry's plans. After all, this is the best result we can get from all this. Count Wistry thinks. The way the kid fought was like a dance. If this hadn't happened, I would have bought him. The judge bangs the gavel and announces, on the last day of the festival, there will be a sentence fight between Ogre and Callie, and the matter is closed. Callie was watching everyone leave when Joseph's son passed by him and spat in his face, saying, you're dead, you trash. Our hero thinks the god who brought me here must be having a lot of fun because it's been shit for me. But is this how you want it? Alright then. I'll put on a show until the end. Next chapter, a guard throws Callie into the room and says, here is your waiting room. I heard you're here because you protected your lady boy. I admit one thing. You have a lot of loyalty, and that's why you have my support. In the darkness of the solitary confinement, the protagonist hears a voice in the background asking, can we come in? It's just for a little while. He becomes curious, and his training camp companions appear. Kaio asks what they're doing there and why Kijo is crying. Koji thanks Callie for everything he's taught him so far, saying he didn't deserve this. Torres tells him, at first I hated you, kid, because you were a complainer, but you're a cool guy after all. So Callie, you can't die, man. Take some of this, you'll need all the strength you can get to fight. Nixer tells him that Ogre is the toughest opponent in the championship. His only flaw is that he has no technique and wishes him good luck. Sometime later, Callie is laughing alone, thinking that some people will regret my death. So that's enough. He hears the sound of clogs entering the room, and when he turns to see, it's Lady Azalea, and he asks why she's there. She replies that she's not someone who would turn her back on someone who saved her. Kaido says it's better if she worries about herself. You've already been kidnapped by bandits and involved with a degenerate. Your life isn't easy. Azale says, if you're so worried about me, then why don't you protect me from now on? And they then exchange saliva and warmth from their lips. Callie asks her what she did. She replies that she doesn't know and asks him to win like he always does while she cries. The guy says she's making things harder, but he assures her that he'll try to protect her a little longer. In Ogre's cell, his Baron says it's time for the fight. As it's an execution fight, he's free to be wild and kill the boy. The death must be as horrendous and frightening as possible. Ogre bites into a piece of meat, stands up, and goes to the fight without saying anything. He enters, and the narrator announces, finally, the most anticipated moment of the festival, Dorman's executor, Ogre, and the condemned criminal and battle slave, Callie. In the audience, everyone cheers for Ogre to crush Callie. Ogre shouts to the audience, and his handcuffs fall to the ground, while Callie thinks he's ridiculously tall and muscular. He tears his shirt and wraps it around his wrists, thinking that it's obvious Ogre has no technique. He doesn't need it. The combat suddenly begins, and Callie advances and hits a rib, but realizes it had no effect. While just the passage of air from Ogre's punch is enough for Callie to understand that it would end him. Ogre then says he's going to kill Callie, who responds by saying that the world is fair. Ogre is that big and strong, but incredibly dumb. He was thinking that this guy's physique doesn't make sense. He's seen a being like this on Earth, but when it comes to killing beasts, humans always use wisdom and technique, and our race is accustomed to defeating creatures stronger than it. Callie starts walking towards Ogre, and everyone thinks he's giving up the fight, but he stops face to face, staring at Ogre, who suddenly tries to punch him. But he dodges and says that Ogre is getting too slow, but in reality he's thinking that if that fist touches him, he dies. Meanwhile, Duke Wistry thinks it's all very sad, as the boy had a lot of potential besides courage and technique, and would be a source of learning for all fighters. The protagonist dodges another punch and thinks, instead of delivering a critical hit, I need to accumulate damage, and then lands another and another. Ogre comes to hit him, but he manages to dodge, and Ogre says he's a stinky rat. Callie thinks that's part of the plan, as the angrier the guy gets, the better for him. In the audience, people are amazed at what's happening, and the Duke recognizes it as the next level of boxing, as it's something never seen before. He's the revolution. Ogre says to Callie, you damn stop running, you piece of crap, and come here to take a hit. But Callie notices Ogre's rib turning red. He dodges and lands another hit on the rib, hearing even a bone-breaking sound. Ogre doesn't understand what's happening, but Callie says it's a closed fist technique. It doesn't work well, but it's good against slow people. Ogre's owner is confused, wondering how is this possible? My Ogre is undefeated. Torres and Kijo are in disbelief, and Torres says you're always like this, you like to surpass people's limits and expectations and come up with various techniques and opportunities. And Kijo thinks that maybe he'll really win. Back in the fight, Callie's strategy to defeat Ogre has been to accumulate fatigue damage, unlike the usual technique of aiming for the brain or throat. It's common sense that the larger you are, the more tired you get as oxygen starts to run out in the blood, but all this is what Callie thought. Ogre is heading towards him while he can't understand how this guy still has energy. The protagonist tries to retreat, thinking I tried to tire him out, but I'm the one tired. He narrowly dodges and realizes he's running out of breath, and now has to defend against the first punch. But he's thrown far away with trembling hands. He realizes if I had moved back before receiving that punch, my arm would have been broken in half. Ogre lets out another yell, but when he takes a look, there are several Callis in the arena, and gets confused, and Callie realizes it must be the first time this guy has had to fight for so long. He must have been used to winning the fight with 1 or 2 punches, but that's not the case. Even though it doesn't seem like it, this guy is still human. Now is the moment, and this will be my last chance while he's tired. He dodges another one, and it's all or nothing, and manages to land one right on the jaw, but Ogre doesn't seem to be too shaken, and the protagonist's fist is more broken than the guy's. But Callie thinks at least I managed to make him lower his guard. Now for my last move, and lands another one on the jaw. Ogre tries to grab him, but he steps back and hits him again on the neck, but now on the other side of his fist is also broken, but he manages to follow up with another elbow. The guy's mouth foams and he falls to the ground. Everyone is in disbelief. It's impossible that the guy really won. Callie thinks, luckily this guy was bad at fighting. I would have lost if he knew anything about technique, and tells the guy, blame your Baron who didn't teach you anything. But Ogre grabs a handful of sand. Nixer can't believe it, but at that moment, Ogre gets up and comes running towards him and manages to kick him in the stomach, sending him flying to the other side of the ring. The people in the audience say it's a foul, but others say that anything goes as it's an execution match, so there are no rules. The protagonist thinks, this hurts like hell. and how can this guy move so fast with that body? Callie narrowly dodges, but he's holding his hand on his bruised belly and takes another hit on the arm and is thrown to the side. Ogre is becoming psychotic and starts to step slowly and crush his leg while he's agonizing. He then grabs him by the neck and lifts him up, while Callie says it doesn't make sense since this isn't boxing, and if he wants to fight like that, he will too. He then pulls Ogre from behind the head and bites his ear. Ogre lets go of him, and Callie rolls to the corner and spits out the pieces. People in the audience are confused, asking, wait, did he really rip off the guy's ear with his mouth? How barbaric. The protagonist says, it looks like you don't have green blood, so you're human, right? Ogre loses his mind and comes running, saying he'll kill him. Callie throws sand in his eyes and says, if it's dirty fighting you want, I know it too, and manages to land another hit on his leg, and Ogre falls to his knees. He defends against another one, but thinks my bones are creaking with each of these hits, but at this moment, I don't even feel anything anymore. Grabs his head and knees him in the middle of the mouth. Duke Wistry thinks so it wasn't a fight between a beast and a human, but between two monsters, and observes the whole audience cheering for Callie to win. Everyone rooting for the protagonist who's beating up Ogre down there, who's thinking, am I going to lose to this skinny kid? And takes another hit to the jaw. Ogre was about to surrender when he fell flat on the ground. Callie takes a deep breath, raises his arm, and everyone goes crazy. Ogre's owner is in disbelief, and everyone who trains with Callie is emotional. He looks back and the knights enter, telling him to stay still, saying the execution must proceed. Callie realizes that they are soldiers of Joseph. Is this how it's going to end? But stones are thrown at the soldiers' heads and the audience shouts, what are you thinking? Let the kid live, you damn bastards, let him live. The soldiers say they're not doing it willingly, and Wistry tells Joseph that they'll have to let Callie live since the Harvest Festival is to fulfill the citizens' requests. If we disobey the citizens' will, the whole festival makes no sense, right? I hope you understand my decision. Joseph thinks I can't create more discord with Wistry, and then says, get up, Valon, we're leaving. Valon, angry, says I may not have killed this slave, but the Baron's life won't be easy. And with that, in the fight between Callie and Ogre, the impossible happened. Next chapter, Nixer says it's a miracle that this kid is alive. All I can say is that he's courageous. Doctor, you need to save him. The doctor replies, if he needs to be hospitalized, you'll need to pay a good amount. Nixer says Dan August is so afraid of Count Joseph that he didn't even want to pay the boy's hospital bills. Azalea then appears and uses her earring as payment. The doctor says that's definitely enough and he'll do his best. Callie wakes up spitting blood and asks what happened, and Nixer replies that the execution was revoked hid as the audience didn't want you to die. Azalea smiles, saying you achieved this victory. I'm just glad you're alive. The protagonist replies, at least I'm still here for now, right? A week later, everyone is returning home. And Koji jokes, look who it is, none other than the festival's protagonist, the ogre hunter Callie. Callie asks who came up with that crappy nickname, and they reply that everyone was calling him that. Torres says you're even daydreaming lying down, huh, lucky you. But Callie says he's only there because he's almost dying. Besides, they said they don't know if my bones will recover well and my ligaments will be torn, but that was expected. The biggest problem is my shin. That ogre really broke it. Luckily, Nixer and Azalea convinced the Baron not to kick me out. The path to the territory was difficult, but the way back was smooth. Callie and his companions returned safely to Auguste, and 3 months later, Winter arrived. The Baron punches the wall, shouting, 3 months, I've been waiting for 3 months. Tell me something, Nixer. Why is this kid still like this? The protagonist enters on crutches, and Nixer explains that this leg of his cannot heal completely, and they said his bones didn't heal because of the growth phase, but how is this kid going to fight like this? Nixer imagines that unfortunately, this boy might really limp for the rest of his life. The Baron asks Callie if this is true, and Callie says yes, and that maybe his leg will never be the same again. The Baron says it's over, and so what if you're the Ogre Slayer? To me, you're now useless, or worse, because of Joseph, the merchants aren't even willing to trade, and we're still in winter. We'll be without firewood and food. All your fault, Callie. Why did you get involved with that family? You should have died to the ogre. Our hero listens without saying a word. Nixer thinks that he has to at least prevent Callie from being expelled or killed. Maybe it's impossible for Callie to return to being a boxer, but he's a skilled boy, he could become an instructor. Callie says he doesn't want to be an instructor. The scene shifts to Koji saying, you're crazy man, you turned down the instructor position, but Callie tells him to shut up and says he does what he wants in life. But Koji insists, saying, you're stupid. It's the best thing for a retired boxer to become an instructor. Do you think instructor Nixer offered you that option without thinking? He sees himself in you since he also went through that. He remembers Nixer saying, I won't interfere any more then. I don't think you know, but someone limping doesn't box. If it were possible, I would have fought for much longer. Callie ponders and Koji asks if he's gone mad after taking so much beating. Callie tells him to shut up and mind his own business, and Koji replies that he already has 7 wins. Torres explains that he's really going crazy, even irritated the master, but the protagonist says he knows they'll hate him regardless of what he does, so he's not worried about smoothing things over. Torres says he has courage, but Callie is thinking, these 3 months that I've been battered, Koji and Torres have been participating in several fights and gaining fame, of course. I have the option of becoming an instructor and living a peaceful life, but it doesn't make sense if I don't fight for myself in the second life. In the next chapter, some lords thank Callie, saying that thanks to him, they'll have a warm winter, and Callie says it's nothing. And the lords say he seems to have grown a lot. Maybe chopping wood is helping you. If your leg doesn't improve, you can join us. One of the guys tells him not to say those things, but Callie says it's okay, and that he thinks he'll heal soon. It's getting colder, so let's go back home soon. The protagonist punches the entrance to his room. Oh crap, I have to calm down. I have knowledge, I have experience, nobody knows boxing like I do, but I know it's impossible to recover my leg with the medical knowledge of this place. Suddenly, Azalea says, hey, you scared me, why are you hitting the door? He enters, saying she scared him, and asks why she's in that room. She replies, you talk as if I couldn't be here, right? While he thinks that since that day he hasn't been able to look her in the eye properly. She chuckles and says, I just came here to say goodbye, okay? Callie asks where she's going, and he explains that his territory is in a terrible state. Not to mention that all the merchants are being blocked by Joseph's family. The weather is getting colder and the cost of living is increasing. It's not even a matter of luxury. The basics are lacking in this place, and at this rate, this city won't survive this winter. Callie said he knew things weren't good, but he didn't imagine they were that bad. And Azalea says that if the merchants won't, she'll go to them and personally talk at the syndicate. Callie asks if Augusta's going with her, and she says no, he's finished looking like a corpse and doesn't get out of bed. If I had any power, I could help your leg. Our hero says it was a choice, and he was prepared when he entered that fight. She then explains that she heard about someone with impressive healing abilities. I'm sure that at the merchant syndicate, I'll get more information and figure out how we're going to heal your leg. Callie tells her not to worry about it since she has no reason to help because he's just a slave. But she says he saved her twice, so that's reason enough. The protagonist watches her leave and thinks this girl hasn't even turned 20 yet and is doing everything for her family. I can't just stand by either. A few days later, we see a guy with an axe in his hand chopping wood and says, I heard you're a boxer, kid. Callie says yes, and that he's there for rehabilitation training, and the guy replies that it's very good because they need people helping. But do you consider chopping wood as rehabilitation? Callie, swinging the axe, says it's impossible to fight in my current state. I can't react with this leg of mine. But at least I need to strengthen myself. If I stop now, all my work will be in vain. He swings the axe, but nothing happens, and the guy says that's not how you swing an axe and says he'll show him. He easily cuts, and Callie realizes the guy used his whole body rotation. The key isn't in strength, kid, it's just a small part of it. You have to know how to use your whole body. Strength is just a small part. So Callie changes his practice, thinking, wow, this really is using a lot more of my muscles. My back and waist are working much harder. One of them then calls, saying it's good they head down to the cabins since they saw some bear tracks, and it's something very dangerous. Even though these tracks seem from a young bear, it's better to be safe than sorry. So let's go. One of the old men who hadn't seen the protagonist asks, who's that limping kid? I've never seen him. The guys say he's a slave from the boxing school. Ever heard of Callie, the kid who defeated the ogre at the harvest festival? The old man is impressed. So this is the ogre hunter? My son watched that fight. If we have an ogre slayer, a bear doesn't matter. The guy tells him not to talk nonsense anymore and to run if he sees a bear, it's better. And Callie is feeling all embarrassed, thinking, stop with that nickname. In the next chapter, at Callie's lodging, teach techniques? The great boar of Augusta is asking me to teach him some techniques. Torres explains that he's almost passing out every fight and can't fight properly. He stumbles and Callie asks him to explain what's happening. Torres says, my body is like this, sometimes I'm losing control and can't see properly. Suddenly the guy throws a stone for him to catch, but he completely misses the reaction time. Callie wonders, retinal detachment, punch-drunk syndrome, or concussion shock. Torres fights taking all the punches, so it was obvious that something was going to happen. He then says, Torres, if you keep taking punches to the head, you're going to be incapacitated. Torres says he knows, and that's why he came to him asking Callie to teach him the techniques he uses. Sometime later, Callie starts teaching Torres some techniques. This here is a defensive position. You maximize your protection when you keep your arms close to your face and body. Since your sense of direction and reaction are affected, This is your best alternative. Tori says this will limit his vision. How is he going to attack? The protagonist replies you have to fight considering that. No frontal attack will be a problem for you. The only issue is that your sides are exposed, so you'll have to move sideways and use your waist to dodge some punches. The good thing is that you can put some spins into your punches and hit with much more force. The important thing now is that you have to block and hit instead of just hitting when hit. You seem to have damage to your eyes or brain. Isn't it better for you to take a break and practice? But Tori says his schedule is packed and his training ground isn't in good condition, so he can't drop out now. Callie wonders what an instructor is thinking. He should be responsible for making sure the master doesn't act like this. Why is he allowing everyone to get beaten up? Tori says August doesn't listen to anyone anymore. The only sanity was the lady, but now that she's gone, everything's gotten worse. Territory administration was at its worst, and the winter was colder than usual. Some residents comment that the Doram couple even fled last night. Doram is a cracksman. It's obvious he'll be welcome wherever he goes, but if we go somewhere else, we'll die of hunger on the way. August never had a good reputation, so the complaints kept increasing more and more. The old man looks at the axe and asks where Callie is. A guide informs him that he's already hit today's quota, so he must have gone to train somewhere. The old man realizes the boy is already chopping faster than him. They think he must be around, so it's just a matter of calling him before they go. In a tree, our boy is cosplaying as Rock Lee, $39.99, 4,000. If I throw 4,000 punches, I can throw 5,000 kicks, but not. It's a somewhat brutal training, but it will work. The law of Wolf. When bones are damaged, calcium increases to make the density stronger, and this will callous my hand. As long as I take into account the regeneration rate, I can strengthen it. I have to become stronger than I was, but now only using my back and waist, no matter the cost. A long time later, they shout, Callie, it's time to leave. He says he's coming and runs. When they come across something, the dead she-wolf on the ground, all bitten and scratched, with several wolf pups nursing on her. The lumberjacks realize she's already dead, and that it looks like she was killed by a bear but returned to her cubs before dying. It's regrettable to leave these little ones here, but it's Mother Nature who will have to take care. We can barely feed ourselves. Callie looks down and there's one at his foot, and it's even petting him. The guys say that one seems to have taken a liking to him, but tell him not to get attached. Callie asks the wolf cub, you're desperate and helpless too, aren't you? I think we can take care of this. Koju warns, he's cute, but if any instructor finds out, you're screwed. Callie says he'll share part of his meal. It's not like he's taking more than he has. The instructor appears, and both of them are startled. Nixer says, geez, Callie, you're getting quite conceited, kid. Little wolf cub, do you think you're a free man? Our protagonist apologizes, and the instructor grabs the wolf, saying, give me that. I'll throw it away. He looks at the adorable little wolf and starts hesitating. Callie says he'll throw it. It's okay. But Nixer says it's all right. I suppose it wouldn't be so bad to have a dog around. Just make sure it doesn't bite the others, Callie. Now go to sleep because tomorrow you'll have to help with building a property. The guy remembers they're going to renovate the main hall. Our master seems determined. Nixer says, determination and stubbornness are the only positive traits he has. The problem is he always follows a strange direction. Meanwhile, the Baron is eager for the results of his ideas. August, which was drowning, suddenly had a good idea to use the popular boxing fights as bait to create connections with merchants and nobles. Fortunately, he had some up-and-coming fighters like Torres, Kijo, and the Ogre Hunter in his training school. By creating a free public attraction, he would attract many people to the territory. Nixer says they can invite the Kataran boxing groups to be their opponents, but the construction fees will be high. The Baron says to collect everything necessary from the people, including their silver utensils, but Nixer tries to say the people won't react well. But the Baron insists and says it's his problem. Focus on your work, Nixer. I'm only doing this to revive our territory. We'll deal with the public later. Now get out of here. 10 days later, numerous luxurious carriages lined up at the mansion. The empty territory was finally full of guests. A free boxing match with famous boxers participating. No one would refuse such an offer. The Kataran boxing group. Torres thinks they'll lose again until suddenly someone asks if the kid, there's the famous Callie, who replies that he's not famous. The guy says, soon I'll win my freedom and return to my hometown. Anyway, whenever I ask who's the strongest, your name comes up. Apparently the rumors are all wrong, aren't they? You're quite weak compared to Torres, besides you're limping. Our protagonist replies that if the guy is an apprentice, he should be focused on training and then ignores him. The guy responds, you don't even want to take me seriously. It was an honor to meet you. Why don't we shake hands? I'll crush you and soon regain my freedom. I've pulled ropes and sailed for over 5 years. There's no way I'll lose when it comes to hand strength. He squeezes the protagonist's hand, which crushes it, and the poor guy realizes his bones are being broken, and Callie asks what's happening. The guy lets go and asks him to let go, and Torres says, beginner acting like a big deal. You would never have come here if you'd seen Callie fight. He stands still without saying anything, and Callie says that if he wants to become a free man, he better focus. Those are the guys you need to beat. In the middle of the ring, Koji is staring down the blonde guy while thinking to himself, I am the best, the strongest of them all. He throws one at the guy's face, and the guy wonders how he was hit from so far away. Torres says that this damn Koji has changed a lot. In the ring there, Koji's long-range punches hit the opponent much earlier than expected. The opponent tries to get closer, but now it's too late, and Koji wins. Callie says he's not wrong to try to approach an opponent with greater reach, but trying like that without any technique doesn't make sense. It would have been better to wait for Koji to tire out. Koji returns and Torres praises him. In the audience, everyone recognizes Torres' august boar and they say, finish this guy, show him your iron fists. Torres faces the opponent, but his vision is all blurry, and he thinks, at this rate, my whole career ends here, but I have no guarantee that Callie's techniques will work in a real fight. For now, I'll use my own methods and go for it. He tries to hit the guy's face, but the guy blocks. They say, no matter how many punches you throw at this guy, he won't stop fighting, let's see. Torres comes in to give another punch, and the opponent thinks, today you'll be my august boar. He dodges by leaning back and surprises Torres, and hits him hard on the head, and he falls hard to the ground, son. The audience comments that he used Wistry-style techniques. Callie asks, Wistry-style, a technique that uses the upper body to dodge blows. He realizes that's what he does. This is a boxing technique created by Duke Wistry after appreciating the boxers of the Harvest Festival, commonly known now as Wistry-style. It's not a common fighting style in this time, it's something that depends directly on your evasive ability. Everyone is saying it's Duke's masterpiece, but anyone who was present at the Harvest Festival knows that Callie was the inspiration for it. Torres is battered and doesn't know what to do. Why do I feel like I can't touch this guy? He's just dodging. The opponent then says, ever heard of Wistry style? I knew you would know. Torres decides to use the style that Callie told him and closes his guard, thinking, I'm going to show you something new. I'm not going to lose to this guy, and goes for it. The crazy guy comes to throw a punch, and he moves to one side, then to the other. The guy comes and punches him in the face, but it hits his hand instead. What kind of fighting style is this? I punched him right in the middle and nothing happened. I see his response now as the abdomen, but to try to hit there, I'll have to expose myself. He dodges another one. Suddenly Torres throws a punch, and the guy tries to defend himself. But it's a hook that sends his arms up, and then Torres whips his chin, and the guy falls instantly. Everyone celebrates, saying, truly, it's the great boar. Callie is still finding it odd how the Duke copied his style and even more impressed with Torres' adaptation. After the boxing match ended as a successful event, August smiled in a way he hadn't in a long time. He smiled thinking, Joseph, you didn't think you'd defeat me so easily. This happiness is because many of the nobles present that day promised to support August again. They told me the fights were very good and that they enjoyed watching. He thought that this way he would revive the territory. However, there was no contact from those nobles once they left. August was devastated, wondering why they didn't respond, and it was at that moment that Auguste realized that all those were just empty words, and they weren't going to help him. These damn people just came here to see free boxing. I even fixed up this whole mansion. Alcohol, bring the damn alcohol. A few weeks later, the guy in the cabin says, I don't know what will become of our future. He's not smart, doesn't manage things well, and he's still a dictator. Not to mention that ring in the mansion used up a lot of wood. At this point, Callie returns, saying he finished the cut, now accompanied by the little wolf he named Robot. The guy remarks that he really looks more like a dog than a wolf and tells him to go back to the cabin after he finishes his training. Callie heads back into the forest once again, but the bear is lurking, concealed beneath the snow sun. The little one punches the trees, thinking that both Torres and Kijo got much stronger and the guys here are improving too. Will I really be able to fight again, or should I have accepted that offer and become an instructor? He looks to the side and the little wolf seems scared and he asks what's wrong while the wolf howls toward the plants. Callie looks but ignores and keeps thinking, though still a bit uncomfortable, gradually getting used to putting all his weight on one leg. Now he's leaving holes in the trees, his hands are gradually getting calloused, but the wolf hears something. Callie sits while the wolf tries to talk to him until he asks what's wrong. Is there something strange? Then he notices the bushes moving even without wind and senses a presence. At that moment, the bear appears, visibly malnourished and hungry, but still a bear, that starts roaring. Callie has no weapon and says he'll have to trust his fists. The bear without hesitation charges at him. Callie dodges and lands a punch on the bear's face, blood already pouring from its nose. The wolf keeps barking and the protagonist lands another punch on the bear's chin, managing to scratch its chest and tear it open. The scene shifts back to the guy sleeping in the cabin and someone knocks on the door. When he opens it, Callie is all beaten up and he asks what happened. Callie says it's nothing serious and that tonight's dinner will be bear soup. The guy is incredulous, but Callie takes them there and everyone is shocked to see that he defeated a bear with his bare hands. News of Callie quickly capturing a bear spread rapidly. It wasn't a fully grown adult, but it wasn't a weak bear either. Capturing something like that with bare hands was surreal. Most who heard thought it was a lie or an exaggeration, but the lumberjacks who saw believed without a doubt, given that all the trees in that area had been destroyed by human fists. The lady is returning to the territory with carriages, people from the city, and a lot of supplies. She descends and asks for her father. The soldier says he's probably at the mansion. She feels sad after being away for so long and him not coming to greet her. She then sees a little boy there that reminds her of Callie, hoping he's at least well. The guy is then notified that she has arrived and also brought many resources for the territory. Additionally, there's going to be a party at the mansion, and everyone is happy since they haven't eaten meat for a long time, except bear meat. Callie stands up and tells the wolf to stay there. It can't come with him to the mansion, but he'll get something for it later. In the mansion, they enjoy a banquet, until someone informs him that the lady is looking for him. She says, "Long time, Callie. How's your leg?" He replies that it's the same, but he's getting used to it. She responded that she knows it must be hurting a lot and explained how she managed to sort things out. It seems she had to talk to a bunch of merchants Joseph had contacted, which is why she had to go to the Imperial City to reach a place where Joseph's pressure wouldn't interfere. Only then she got the supplies. Her father said she did a lot as expected from his daughter. The protagonist thinks that the Imperial region, as far as he heard, has a very strong military power. Although they share the same language and customs as theirs, it's strange that she managed to get everything there. Azalea then says, "I heard a very interesting story there. I'm sure you'll be interested, and that's why I called you. I heard about a famous doctor there. He's the Imperial family's doctor, and everyone calls him Dr. God. He can even attach lost limbs." Callie says it seems incredible, but there's no way a doctor of that level would want to heal a slave. Azalea says that if she goes there to ask, she's sure it's possible since she made some connections with the Imperial family. Since everyone loves the fights, whenever a fighter gets injured, they always end up treating him. She wants to take Callie with her after resting a little in that place. The father is all happy, saying, "Azalea, you are my true blessing," and she feels a little embarrassed, while Callie feels insecure, asking if she's sure about his legs. She says of course she'll find a way to make it happen, but then she lowers her head thinking it's impossible to meet the royal family for someone like her. She just hopes Callie doesn't find out what's behind all this. In the morning, everyone is practicing, but all Callie can think about is, will my leg really be healed? Nixer asks what he's thinking so much about and asks for help to decide on tomorrow's apprentice test. Who do you think I should send? Callie says to take Takayan or Shirin. Takayan has great flexibility and moves like a leopard, and Shirin has great muscles, plus he has a fiery spirit, as he's eager to return to his homeland. Maybe a big secret is having good reason. Nixer, hearing this, realizes he's sad and wonders why. Callie is thinking it's an exaggeration to say that someone from this world will attach a limb. The medical practices here are very rudimentary. In fact, the surgeries they did after the fight with the ogre were all useless. Maybe it's just a futile hope, and there's no way to fix it. But what do I do? He punches the table. Damn it, what am I thinking? Azalea works so hard to get this opportunity. Koji tells him to stop hitting the table because he's scaring the robot. Callie asks Koji why he boxes, and he replies that he fights because he's ordered to. He's a slave, so he doesn't decide anything. But this little robot is so cute, I'm going to bite him. Our hero thinks things aren't so simple. Next day, time for the apprentice test. An apprentice becomes an official boxer by competing with a professional boxer and gaining the coach's recognition. But the truth is that August's apprentice test is more of an informal and ceremonial event because only those with the ability to pass are sent. The apprentices select their boxer by drawing lots and proceed with the fight. The guy pulls a stick. Koji, it's you. Koji gets up and says, I'm screwed. Callie thinks it was obvious that Koji would humiliate this kid. He has those long arms and now knows very well how to use the whole body structure. He's becoming more and more skilled. Nothing like that guy before. Koji and Torres are getting stronger and stronger. While I'm punching trees up there on the mountain, if that's not serving any purpose. I'm not using that punch on anyone. Using my legs or not, I want to prove that I'm still strong. The announcer says the next one is Shirin. He ignores the stick selection and tells Callie he wants to fight him, and this leg pain thing is fake. Callie is eager to test the tree punch on someone's face. People are against it because he can't choose the opponent, but Nixer says it's okay. I honestly want to see it. How is Callie going to fight now with this leg? This kid wasn't bluffing to gain time. I'm sure he has some plan. The little one stands up and asks why he was chosen, and Shirin replies, "You humiliated me that time, and I'm going to show you who you mess with." He says it's okay then, and makes a boxing glove with a leather strap. Callie asks if Shirin has it good in the abdomen while Shirin is thinking, I heard about this kid. He doesn't just fight with his fists, he uses intelligence and strategy. But now the broken leg is going to have to use half the skill, and then goes after him. Callie sees the movement and realizes he's going to try to come from the left, and lands a punch that no one can even see properly. Everyone is shocked and in awe, and Torres wonders since when his punch has been so strong. It was a punch to the ribs, and Shirin already felt breathless. The instructor even asks if he's okay while he's confused, not understanding what happened. It was a blow, and his rib almost broke. He turns around and says it's okay. They've only just begun, and he can keep going. Callie thinks I wrapped my fist with leather, but I'm sure I hit the perfect spot, and he even jokes, saying the guy is determined, just not good at fighting. Shirin admits that Callie apparently really managed to defeat a bear and says, but there's no way I'm losing to a kid who doesn't use one leg. However, when he tries to take a step forward, his leg doesn't respond. What's happening? I took a punch to the abdomen, but my leg is numb. Callie notices and asks if his leg is stuck by any chance. His friends want to know why he's standing still. This is humiliating for all the apprentices. He says he knows that and tells them to shut up, saying, I'm not like this guy. I can still move. He starts trying to circle Callie there, but spinning around him ends up forcing him to move, but with a bad leg, it's difficult. Callie ends up feeling pain, and Shirin finds an opening to hit him in the face, but he realizes that the protagonist is very calm and takes a cannon to the mouth. He rolls out and ends up on the other side of the ring, passing out. Sometime later, his friends say he was stupid to choose Callie right away. No matter how messed up his leg is, he's still the ogre hunter. However, Shirin says he was lied to. Everyone said Callie only fought with strategy. He didn't expect the kid to be so strong. The instructors pat him on the back and tell him to stop crying. Nobody knew Callie was so strong until now. Even in his last fight, he only used technique. Shirin, confused, asks, how is this possible? How does someone get such a strong punch in winter? This guy is worse than an ogre. Torres tells Callie he didn't expect this change of style. Apparently, he abandoned the techniques and is now focusing on brute force, and Callie responds that he had to change to be able to fight with this leg. It's no longer about avoiding and hitting. Now it's about hitting till the guy falls and Torres thinks. This kid keeps surprising me, and I'm curious to know who's stronger between us two. He wasn't bluffing when he said he was going to fight again, even with his messed up leg. Callie says there must have been people who thought his career was over just because of this leg, but I'll prove that's not the case. But after this motivational speech, he sits and thinks fighting without one leg is harder than I thought. To compensate for this, I have to use all the strength of my back and waist. Not to mention that any support on the quadriceps drains my energy. I need to improve my force distribution. Now our boy has that guts vibe, all beaten up with bare fur, a stab in the face, and a burn on the shoulder. After the apprentice test was over, spring came, and after resting, the merchants that the lady brought left the territory. On the night the merchants were about to leave, a girl came to talk to Callie and said, "So you're the favored one of our lady, the boxer Callie? You're quite cute." Callie says he's his slave and being cute or ugly doesn't change anything in his life. She says it's not quite like that and says, "You're so cute that I would let you press the like button on this video to help Mamoru, who brings 1 hour of video every day for his buddies. Activate that cheeky little bell, and I'm out." Do you remember last time we stopped when the protagonist met a new girl? And she came saying that he's handsome, but the protagonist said he doesn't care, that he's worn to punch, not to kiss. Haha, just kidding. He just said whatever. She said her name is Sullivan, and she's part of the mercenaries group, but he can rest assured those men aren't evil. The protagonist greets, saying his name is Callie, and Sullivan asks, "I heard a rumor that you killed a bear, is it true?" However, while they talk, she thinks the boy looks sad, yet there's not much she can do. Then one of the mercenaries calls her to help set up the tent, and she says she's going. Callie says he'll help too, but she says he doesn't need to. She knows it'll be bad for his leg. She leaves and Callie thinks he can't do anything. Azalea appears and says there's not much he can do. They just want to help because of his leg. Callie says part of it is her fault, treating him like he's a broken-legged stump, but Azalea tells him you can't avoid these embarrassing situations, so just follow me now, something interesting is going to happen. Callie asks what it is, and Azalea gives a little smile, saying she's going to put something tasty in his mouth, namely some warm food. The three of them walking, and Callie comments that most of the mercenaries are seen very young, almost 20 years old. Azalea explains to him, it's because no mercenaries group would follow someone as young as her. There's a belief that following such a young captain brings bad luck. Callie says it doesn't make sense, but Azalea says whatever the truth is, that's it. And that's why only these rookie mercenaries follow her. In a way, they're in the same situation. Nobody wants a bunch of new mercenaries. They're in the tent, and the protagonist got the food and is leaving, but she tells him not to go. Callie awkwardly asks why, but she gets the table and says, let's eat together, boy. But she thinks the situation is kind of embarrassing. After a deadly silence, she asks, Callie, why do you fight? Is it for freedom? He says that's exactly it. Just like any other slave, but Azalea tells him, you're not just any other slave, you can achieve many things in this situation, so why even with so many other possibilities, and you still want to be a boxer? It's not like your life would get worse if you stopped. Callie is confused and asks, why are you talking about this? But she responds with another question. If you could choose between the leg and freedom, what would you choose? And Callie says he doesn't like that if in the middle of the sentence. She gets close to him and makes an offer. If you give up on the treatment for your leg, I'll make you a free man. She says she'll convince her father, but Callie says she's right. His life wouldn't get worse if he stopped fighting. But he doesn't want freedom. He just wants to prove he's stronger by winning every competition. Callie prefers to have a bunch of losers in front of him than the leg. The boy doesn't give up. Azalea then says she's tired and she's leaving. When she leaves, she lies down and bites her lip, thinking he's an idiot, but whatever in the future. When he finds someone he loves, he'll realize that life has passed and it's too late because he spent all this time just fighting. And when he needs to defend himself the most, he won't be able to fight. The deal here got heavy, and the next day, Callie is a bit down and Sullivan asks him what's wrong. He says it's nothing, but she interrupts and says, it's about your leg, isn't it? Just hold on a little longer. Soon we'll arrive in the Free City. He asks what the Free City is and what's there. She says it's a city full of hereditary lords, and it's one of the biggest commercial districts, where the lords are even chosen by elections. Because of this, rich merchants pay a lot of money for campaigns. It's common for kidnapping, bribery, and assassination of other families to occur. She's trying to say if the city is good or bad. I'm confused. She explains that all this only happens behind the scenes, but it's undeniable that this city is more vibrant than all the others. Azalea then is entering the city, and the guard is checking the documents. The guard says she can stay for up to 7 days, and it's possible to extend the stay at the city hall. At that moment, the guard sees a wolf behind Callie and asks when it is, warning that wild animals are not allowed. However, Callie responds that it's a hybrid dog and he has just a little bit of wolf blood, and his name is Robo. The guard looks and says, this filthy dog can't even bark, so hurry up. Sullivan bursts into laughter and says, my God, you said this disgrace is a dog. How do you lie like that? But the guard is looking and says, August's group has arrived, inform the guards. It seems they're planning something malicious, and the city is bustling, seagulls in the sky, and everyone negotiating. The guards once again check Azalea's documents while Sullivan and Callie are there on the pier dying to eat sushi. Then a flyer flies by that the protagonist grabs to take a look at, and right after, he's confused, wondering what is this. At that moment, Sullivan comes from behind and explains what the Corn Fighters tournament is. Callie asks her about this tournament, and she explains that usually fighters get paid per fight, but in the tournament, you pay enter, and the winner takes a considerable amount. While Sullivan was saying she loves watching a fight and could accompany Callie to register, they heard someone asking what they were doing. When they turn around, they see Azalea and her group, who are all surrounded by a mustached knight who says, pleasure to meet you, Miss Azalea. I am Corn's chief guard, Leonardo, and I heard a report of arms smuggling with you. Please accompany me. Azalea replies that she won't do that since it's a false accusation. The inspection happened, however, the knight puts his hand on the sword and warns that Miss Azalea needs to accompany him if she wants to resolve the problem discreetly. If not, they'll cut everyone down. The scene changes to the guard's room where Leonardo is telling Azalea that the smuggling story is actually a lie, and he just received a message to hold the August merchants for some unknown reason. Azalea, finding it strange, asks Leonardo why he's doing this and wants to know what he wants. Leonardo understands the situation and says he wants 10,000 gold. All the angry guards advise the princess that it's impossible to come up with so much money in this situation. Besides, money is tight for the Empire's journey. With a pensive expression, she knows this, and that if she considers all the money she has, she'll only get a maximum of 5,000 and needs another 5,000. That damn Aaron Joseph is really trying to ruin her family, and Callie knows it and is thinking the same thing. Sullivan, leaning against the wall, wonders if this will be the end of the merchant's group. She thinks she'll have to find someone else to hire her. It seems Callie heard Sullivan and calls her. She awkwardly apologizes and wishes there was a way to solve the problem using a knife. Callie then says he actually wants to know what qualifications are needed to participate in that boxing tournament, and she responds with a somewhat excited and somewhat scared look that you just need 100 gold and pass the test given by the active fighter. Callie asks about the prize and she replies it's 8,000. But Azalea from afar says she won't let him participate at all. Everyone there became apprehensive, and the knights start trying to convince Azalea, arguing that if Callie wins, they'll only need 2,000, and besides, he even beat the ogre. However, she turns around and says everyone is crazy. The princess doesn't want to send him with his leg in that state to fight, and Sullivan, watching all this conversation from behind, thinks it's not quite a romance yet, but it's close. The knight continues to insist that this is the only way and says if they stay detained here, Joseph's family will show up and bang. Callie punches the table, saying he promised the old man he would make a comeback this summer, so this tournament is the stage where he'll make that happen. The princess stands there somewhat at a loss. She lets out a sigh. All right then, but make sure you win this tournament, Callie, she promises. The registration guy is asking for the protagonist's name, thinking it's Coley, and angrily he responds that it's Callie. The attendant then says whatever and finalizes the registration, but finds it strange that a boy with his leg in that state wants to register for the fight. Sullivan then points to a bald man in the center and says he's the judge of the fighter's tournament. This bald man is shouting at someone, calling him an idiot who should go back to his mother's breastfeed, or go buy milk. Callie is pondering about the behavior and analyzing his physical body while Sullivan is inhaling deeply to let out a scream that suddenly tells the bald man to go drink more milk. After doing this, she disappears, leaving everyone thinking the protagonist did it, so he's questioned, "What are you doing?" The bald man looks at him and calls him over, while the crowd is all confused watching Callie walk but trembling all over. The bald man tells him that's the participant's place and orders Callie to leave, but the protagonist says he's a participant too. Making him even more nervous, he calls him to the combat. We see Sullivan, who wants to see the fight and is thinking that whoever defeated the famous ogre was Callie, and she knows that for someone like him, this bald man isn't a problem after all. If the protagonist's goal is to win this fight, it should be easy. The scene changes and we see her shocked face while the poor bald man is lying on the ground all twisted, drooling and thinking, "It seemed like it was going for my leg, but he hit my waist when he took a rib kick." Callie, still all swag, asks if that's all he's got, while Sullivan is all happy, incredulous at the strength of the protagonist's punch. Callie explains he took advantage of him being very distracted, and she emphasizes that this strategy is also a skill and assures that everything will be fine in the tournament tomorrow. Staring at him, she thinks that this is actually a master skill, and he doesn't even seem like a slave, understanding why Azalea fell in love with him. Night falls and Callie is lying on the bed, thinking about how comforting it is to be able to defeat an opponent in the ring. But he knows it was easy to win because that man was too confident. But the problem is when fighting someone in the Whistly style who dodges and changes direction a lot. The more he tries to stand still to avoid suffering because of his weak leg, the harder it will be to deal with this type of person. At noon the next day, we already see the fight that is about to begin. In the place, they're telling the participants not to kill each other before the ring, while Azalea finds the place unpleasant and smelly. Callie cruelly questions why she's here. Ignoring the question, she says she'll leave first. The draw begins and Callie gets number 4 and is warned that he will fight against opponent number 3. Callie says it would be easier if they just made a fight chart, but Sullivan explains it's different from what he used to do, as except for the finals and semifinals, there's a fight every day. And to reach the final, you need 5 consecutive wins, so if you encounter someone very strong at the beginning, that will be your end. Callie agrees and says in that case, you'll end up with a lot of injury and fatigue. Sullivan says that's why it's a public draw. It's to prevent matches from being manipulated, especially considering the large amount of money involved. And the protagonist thinks that this way it seems like a gambling game. Numbers 1 and 2 will fight, and Sullivan says things are getting serious. It's time for number 3, who, to be honest, looks like a nice guy against number 4. Sullivan says he probably comes from some rich family and only signed up to test some techniques he learned, so Callie understands why they called him a boxing student, and it makes sense because his hands weren't very calloused. Sullivan says he may seem like an easy opponent, but she warns not to underestimate him because they're usually tricky. The protagonist says he knows about it as he learned it the hard way. The scene changes to Sullivan with a bag of money in her hand, asking her group if they trust her. Confused, they ask why she has all the money and want to know what she wants to do. She then replies that it's half of their salary for the next 6 months, and in this tournament, she's going to bet everything on Callie. The group says she's crazy, but she says she's not crazy, though of course they complain, saying, "Are you going to bet on a kid with that leg?" Sullivan asks if anyone here has been at a loss listening to me. The guys reply that actually no. In 2 years, nobody even died. She asks, "Why does this happen?" They reply, "The captain knows how to hit and run." She warns that her instinct is telling her that now is the right time to hit. The group stares at each other but says they agree. With that, everyone raises their hands, saying they trust the captain's decisions, and if they lose everything, it's okay because they can start over. Sullivan gets excited and says she'll go back to the lodging while Azalea is listening to everything, saying she's plotting something fun. And so begins the first game of the 32 rounds, a punch in the face of the poor guy. Watching the commotion, Callie sees that the level is much higher than he thought, and the punch the guy used was just to block the vision and used a straight punch right through the blind spot, hitting precisely on the nose. Knowing that in theory it's a modern boxing technique, this guy must have a lot of experience to do this here, but the guy staggers, falls to the ground, and the winner is number 2, but he's done. In the audience, those who bet on him are overjoyed, while those who bet on the opponent are obviously angry. Despite complaining a bit about the noise, Callie is going to do his fight number 3 against number 4. As the grid rises and the protagonist enters the ring, everyone in the audience is obviously confused, wondering why the boy is limping to the arena and wants to know how he's going to fight and if he's going to survive. Callie passes through the ropes to enter the ring, and the only person who trusts him is the opponent, who says he won't underestimate him even if he doesn't have a functioning leg. Callie thinks about what Sullivan said and concludes that maybe there's a problem. The protagonist sets the strategy knowing that if he hits too hard, he can get hurt and attract too much attention, so for now, it's better to win moderately, so he'll only hit his chin. And that's it. But at that moment, the opponent turns into a blur, appears with a punch to his face, hitting him in the nose, and delivers several punches like in the N on One Piece. Callie has to resort to defense, but the opponent spins and moves to the side, punching him in the ear. However, Callie is motivated. Saying he won't let his opponent do that, he throws another punch back, but the man dodges and steps back, saying he looks quite threatening, so Callie recognizes right away, this is the Whistly style. The opponent acknowledges the protagonist's insight and confirms that he even went to the Duke just to learn the technique. At that moment, Callie smiles, thinking it was his style at first, so he knows it very well, and he realizes that his opponent took advantage of the situation. Now it's time to take it seriously. He tries to throw a cross, but the guy moves to the side and punches him in the ribs. Strangely, his fist gets stuck. Callie thinks, I saw Torres fighting before, but now I'm sure the Whistly style still doesn't have perfect footwork. When they touch the ground, the full force isn't transmitted to the fist, and trying to win a fight without strength is a big problem, since muscle alone can't generate enough impact. As he keeps hitting Callie and nothing happens, he steps back, saying Callie's attack won't work, but the protagonist says it's time to corner him. However, a step on the ground and his leg is burning. He feels pain and groans, saying he has to go for it, but now his whole knee hurts. Callie knows there's no way, and he needs to end this once and for all. He charges forward and punches the opponent in the ribs, making him regurgitate everything that was in his stomach. When he fell backward, he realized his leg was all messed up, and he lost some movement too. He tries to move, but Callie moves in, and just as he's about to exit, the protagonist steps on his foot and lands a direct punch to the chin. Bang. The other fighters are just watching, confused, and asking how he defeated someone who fights in the Whistly style without even having a leg, ovating and admitting Callie's skill. A little later, the opponent comes to talk to him and asks, how dare you do that, you idiot? But the other fighters give him a glare and say, how dare you say that, you son of a noble? This is for fighting. Do you think you can complain just because he stepped on your foot? That's the most normal thing here. Callie doesn't care, just thinking that he's been through worse, from grappling to getting sand in his eye. And apparently this guy doesn't have much experience to think that's cheating, so Callie humbly taps him on the shoulder and tells him to follow because he needs to learn something. The opponent asks what he wants and if he wants to fight again. Callie tells him if it were a street fight, you'd already be dead. But the man beats his chest, explaining that Whistly recognizes my skill, but Callie puts his hand on his face and says he also recognizes your skill. But you learn wrong. Spyron is confused and asks, learn wrong? Callie explains that moving your leg quickly doesn't mean it's a good move. It just makes you the first to get tired. Besides, you have to learn to move your body correctly. The strength of your leg has to be transmitted to the fist. Spyron steps on the ground and throws a punch, asking if it's like this. Callie says it's more or less, but it's very difficult to throw a strong punch using only the strength of the fist. Spyron comes and grabs Callie's hand and says, Callie, you're a good guy. Our hero corrects that his name is Callie and not Coley, and Spyron is embarrassed, but it's okay, be Callie or Coley. Just keep fighting, because if you beat me, then you must be the winner here. He walks away looking back where he already heard the name Callie. 3 days later, Sullivan is talking to him that apparently he will have some easy opponents until the 8th round while Azalea is kind of awkward. However, Callie doesn't think he got an easy opponent because he's very beaten up but admits that at least everyone was exhausted like him. However, Azalea is apprehensive thinking that Callie got hurt again while some men passed by saying that a weak kid got lucky in the fight. Sullivan says it doesn't matter what they're saying, they're just irritated because they lost money betting against you, and Callie says he doesn't care about that. He doesn't care. She then says what he needs to do is observe the next opponent. In the ring, another fight is happening, and in the audience, everyone is cheering for the guy named Jirika. The guy has famous demonic backs. Sullivan warns, this guy is a slave from the western region and is popular for crushing his opponents. Maybe he can even become a free citizen if he can gather such a large crowd. Azalea asks if he can be a free man, so why doesn't he stop being a boxer? Sullivan says obviously, right? It's because he likes to torture people in the fight. In the ring, the psychopath Jirika is calling the opponent for the fight and wants him to hit more. While the opponent thinks, what a crazy guy, and punches him in the face, which bleeds, but smiling, and returns a punch to the chin and says it didn't hurt. Only the psychopath is really smiling while taking a beating, and while hitting so his opponent falls on the rope. He wants to know what it is because he's sure he's hitting, but why isn't he retreating? Here comes Jirika licking his lips. It seems like this man is immortal, so he'll surrender. But he takes a hit in the hand while Jirika thinks he's thinking he'll surrender like this. But the judge says he surrenders, and yet he continues to punch the chin and says he didn't hear the opponent's surrender request, who was taken on a stretcher. Sullivan asks if he thinks he can finish the next opponent. Callie says when he watches the guy fighting he doesn't think he'll lose, but Azalea asks, but what? But Callie says forget it, and thinks that this guy doesn't have much skill. But his body is very strong, there's nothing special about him, just like Ogre. But there's something that seems dangerous. Round 4 is going to happen, Jirika and everyone cheering for him while Azalea seems worried. By Sullivan's side, she asks if everyone is rooting for this Jirika, and he's in the lead, but Sullivan says not to worry. Callie isn't the type to get discouraged just by this kind of environment. She's sweating cold, rooting for Callie, remembering she bet everything on him. About to go into the arena, Callie analyzes that this guy has a very strong support base. Unlike other fighters, he seems to know how to aim at vital points, so the ring guy announces the semifinal that everyone was excited about, Jirika and Callie. Looking at the protagonist, Jirika asks who's that guy there, and states that this is kind of unfair after all. How may they expect such an opponent to take a beating? But it already starts with the psychopath crouching, releasing a smile, and throwing a punch that almost connects. Jirika says the protagonist boy has a good eye already. Callie thinks about the cowardice Jirika showed by starting the fight before the judge announced it, but is warned if you do that again, there'll be a foul. Okay, but he knows it's just nonsense. If the audience doesn't notice, it's all good. The fight begins, and Callie is thinking someone aggressive like him will surely attack first and with reason, and here he comes sending a cross that's dodged and returns a punch to the chest. The punch sunk Jirika's chest and made him spit blood, and thinking it's over, Callie becomes confident after all. The opponent fell to the ground and won't get up since that was the strongest punch Callie can deliver. The judge asks if Jirika died, but shaking, he opens his eyes and replies, "I'll never die." And that was great after all. He felt uncomfortable for a while because the punch was strong. Callie is confused, wondering how he got up, and affirms there's no way someone can get up after a punch like that. But he calms down and tells Jirika it's better for him to give up this time, or he'll end up dying. Jirika says that's nonsense and that his punch didn't even tickle and goes on the attack, but sidestepping, always trying to stay on Callie's bad leg, who's thinking that hitting again in the abdomen will be enough to make him fall, but he doesn't want to kill someone with a punch. Maybe he has to go sideways and create an opening, but he missed the punch and now Jirika is coming to attack, but it's defended with the shoulder. The fight continues and he keeps dodging his punches and ducks from another of Jirika's punch, who says it's a pity to have missed this punch, otherwise the fight would have ended by now. The shoulder was sore, and he thinks that's why the guy before gave up, since his punch is heavier than I imagined. Callie gets serious and tells Jirika he'll abandon the thought of not killing someone with my fist, and that if he keeps fighting he'll die. Jirika replies he's not afraid, and that if Callie doesn't stop he'll die. The foot snaps because it's being too forced while Jirika throws the punch over, but it's dodged and takes a punch in the rib that breaks. The psychopath, when he feels the pain, starts laughing and staring at Callie. He says this is funny. The protagonist is confused, wondering why he keeps fighting even with a broken rib. Another punch and Callie manages to defend one and thinks he has a lot of stability, but that's not the only reason for this guy to get this far, and if he doesn't defend these punches, he'll end up losing after all. He's already being beaten. The damn Jiraiya doesn't stop beating the protagonist, who is now having to retreat, but he retaliates well in the abdomen. Jiraiya feels the blow, spits blood in Callie's face, who went blind, took a punch, and was sent far away. In the audience, everyone bet on him and is celebrating. Meanwhile, Azalea is biting her nails, and Sullivan is just looking at her and says she seems worried and calms her down. After all, Callie won't give up like this. But actually, she's thinking that Callie has to win this fight at all costs, since she bet everything she had on him. Poor guy is in the middle of the ring, analyzing his opponent, and knows that he always tries to finish with a punch right in the jaw. But luckily, Callie managed to tilt his head and dodge it, but there's something strange about this Jiraiya guy, who seems to feel no pain. PSICO is there shouting to the heavens that he's blessed by God with an immortal body and will never die, unlike this crippled guy who's fighting. Callie tells him that's not a blessing, and in fact, his body is all broken, and it's too late for him. But Jiraiya truly believes he's the enemy of science and reaffirms he has an immortal body. The protagonist says that doesn't exist, and he'll prove it now, abandoning all the strategies he planned, and will end this fight with all his might. He steps with the leg that's messed up, asking it to hold on a little longer, while Jiraiya goes for it, saying it won't work, and blocks his punch with both hands. However, his arm got all twisted, leaving him confused since he hit his hand from the inside on purpose, and the blow was so fast that the audience didn't even notice. He tries to throw a cross, but Callie crouches down, asking for one more punch and giving a step with the leg that's about to give out, biting his bleeding lip, and lands another punch on that broken rib, sinking it even further and making Jiraiya spit out more blood. Callie retreats, sweating and exhausted, wondering why the hell Jiraiya is still smiling, deducing that he's targeting the protagonist's weak leg. While Callie waits for Jiraiya's attack, the entire audience is rooting for the psycho to win, and everyone is saying, "Go Jiraiya, win the fight." They're face to face, but he's just standing there, laughing like a maniac, but Callie extends his arm, pushes him, and he falls to the ground, smiling like a maniac. But it seems he's finished. The scene shifts to Jiraiya's background 7 years ago in the eastern desert, showing when the poor guy was 15, a boulder fell on his head. But 3 days later, he opened his eyes and thought he'd been blessed with the power that made him the strongest among all, and that his body simply didn't feel pain. He crushed the slave who tormented him and came here to the city of Korin, always thinking he was the strongest and invincible, blessed by God, and it was impossible. But when he charged at Callie, his heart gave out and he fell to the ground. The poor guy passed out thinking he was immortal. The referee checks his pulse and says Jiraiya can't continue the fight, so the winner is Callie. In the audience, even some girls are shouting our hero's name, and Sullivan celebrates by getting up. He won, but when she looks to the side, something falls on her thighs. She's crying there, saying she's so happy and that she's ashamed. Sullivan is embarrassed and Spyron is impressed. And after all that, he remembers the name and that Callie is the Ogre Hunter. The next day in Callie's accommodation, when he stepped out, there was a crowd chanting that he's the Ogre Hunter, he's the real Callie. People were even offering leg massages, but the protagonist wonders what's going on. Sullivan explains that he's popular now, and she thinks everyone knows who he is. After all, some of the people who watched the Ogre fight also watched the other fight. But she tells him to go have breakfast because they're going to a doctor she knows. The fight between the two drew a lot of attention, and this information spread throughout the city. In an alley, one of the boxers named Voltaine is furious with Callie, finding it impossible for him to have beaten the ogre. But his group warns him that he crushed Jiraiya, so he can't ignore him. Voltaine wouldn't even have beaten Jiraiya, so how is he going to beat someone who beat him? He doesn't like how they're talking to him, so he puts the knife to his neck and says they're underestimating him. The group then apologizes and says they'll find some guys to solve the problem. Since Voltaine wants to win, he needs a perfect plan and thinks about cutting Callie's leg, which is also talked about by the doctor. But Callie is perplexed and asks why cut the leg off. The doctor explains that the remaining bones are hurting his flesh and he'll still have above the knee, so just bandage it, but he's already coming with a cleaver. Callie is confused and wants to know why this old man is suggesting cutting off his leg. Besides, he has a fight tomorrow, so the old man scratches his nose and says, "So you're a fighter. You couldn't kill people and now you want to ignore my suggestion." Sullivan explains who the protagonist is and that he's on the rise, but Callie feels a bit embarrassed and tells Sullivan to stop it, and that he'll seek treatment elsewhere, so just give him some medicine to endure a little longer. The doctor hands over his strong medicine. With that, they leave, but before that, the doctor tells Sullivan that the boy's leg needs to be cut off for a reason, and he has many years of experience and knows that few will be able to solve that. Sullivan asks if he knows about the god of the empire, and he replies that he often hears that name and that his name is Johan. The next day, it's time for the final, and Callie thinks that after the medicine and bandaging, his leg is much better. The guards at the door, staring at Callie, think it's much easier to protect this place now because there's only one person there, but the other one says they shouldn't be afraid of the boxers because they'll fight each other and suggests going out to eat. At that moment, someone calls Callie from behind, and when he looks, it's Sullivan with the wolf dog. He pets him, saying he misses him already. Sullivan says she can't believe it's a wolf, and how does he get so close to him? But at that moment, 2 feet appear at the door and some guys come in saying, "Wow, it's the real ogre hunter? I knew he'd be here." They get closer, saying they're fans of Callie and want to shake his hand, but Sullivan and the robot are staring. She notices something and pushes Callie back, throws her hand to defend, and takes a stab but gives a knee to the rib. The guy falls back and the other one attacks. Callie sees the blade and thinks to avoid it, but the dog is coming. The enemy sends the cut towards him and he recoils, but they both run away, managing to escape. Callie asks Sullivan if she's okay. She says she's fine, just hurt her finger a bit. She's sure it must be Voltaine's fault. That idiot must have planned this. She knew something like this would happen. But then they notice the robot lying there on the ground, so they go to help, but Sullivan says it's just a superficial wound and it'll be okay. He needs to focus on the fight because she bet all her money on him, including the money she saved from everyone for retirement. She'll take care of the dog while he goes there to win. So the protagonist wraps his hand and says he'll come back a winner. The scene changes to the ring when Voltaine looks and realizes that Callie appeared without any injuries and with a clean expression while Callie is staring. The referee gives the signal to start and the 2 opponents are already face to face. Voltaine, a little closer, becomes confident considering the protagonist is shorter than expected, not to mention that his leg isn't very good, so he decides to attack first, hitting the chin. But even though Callie pulled his head back at the last moment to reduce the damage, Voltaine becomes confident and thinks it's working and that he'll hit another one. The blow is heading straight for the head, but Callie defends with his arm, saying his name. Voltaine, who keeps trying to land the blows but misses, and when he's about to shout to ask, he takes a punch inside his mouth. Callie asks what's wrong, spits this out, and lands a punch, pulling out all his teeth. Voltaine enters agony and Callie tells him not to worry because he won't be eating meat in the future anyway. With teeth flying, poor Voltaine falls backward, saying he surrenders. But he takes a punch in the hand, breaking a few more fingers, a few more punches to the face, and another hit right in the middle of the belly. In the audience, people are all open-mouthed, and in the ring, he falls hard on the ground like a stone. The judge is a bit hesitant, but signals that the winner is Callie, and the audience goes wild, but the pain in his leg returns, and he thinks that this leg is a curse. The next day, the closing celebration of the event takes place, and the noble comes to congratulate him, asking him to come back to the city whenever he has time as he will be well treated. Callie responds affirmatively. One of the guys is handing the money to Azalea, saying that the boy really is the one. She takes the prize money but clearly doesn't seem very happy about it. That day in the lodging, everyone was praising Callie and how thanks to him, the group is rich. They're detailing the fights and how strong the protagonist is, but suddenly, bam, the door opens. Leonardo enters. He says it's been a long time since he saw Azalea, but she affirms that she was already expecting him. He talks about Callie and didn't know he was a fighter, let alone the ogre hunter. Azalea throws the money on the table, saying the debt is paid, but Leonardo says they won't leave that easily, and he continues, "These 10,000 aren't enough because I bet on Jerica, and I'm not happy that Callie won. Why didn't you tell me earlier that this kid was the ogre hunter?" Azalea gives him a stare and snaps her fingers, then Sullivan takes from her backpack and throws it too. 20,000. Leonardo is now confused, staring at that pile of coins, not knowing where so much money came from. Then it shows what happened a little earlier. When Sullivan talked to her group about betting, Azalea said she would bet all of hers too, even though it was against her. Azalea knew it was the best thing to do despite Callie hurting his leg even more. She knew he wouldn't lose under any circumstances. She then questions, what's the problem? Isn't it enough? Leonardo says it's a huge amount, but he'll only take that much and takes 3 coins. Azalea doesn't understand, but Leonardo looks at the group and tells someone to come in. The door then opens and Spyron appears, who looks at Callie and asks if he's okay before looking at Leonardo and telling him to forget about this matter this time, especially since it's very wrong for the main guard of this place to do this, and imagine if this news reaches my uncle's ears. Leonardo, worried, knew all this would happen, and Sullivan says that as expected, he's a noble. Then Spyron says he was just curious because someone who injured his leg in the fight against the ogre came to this place. He also says he uses a pseudonym, and his real name is Lorvim, and his uncle is the current dean of Corrine, the person with the highest position in a certain area. The guards recognize him immediately, and Leonardo leaves, saying that next time he'll bet on Callie, but the protagonist thinks he never wants to see him again. Then they explain the whole story of Joseph to Lorvim, who is thinking, so that's what happened, and offers some kind of help. However, Azalea says that this is enough to help them and thanks him. If they can get help from the high ranks of Korean, Joseph won't be able to do anything against them. Now Callie is happy, and Lorvim then calls him to know what happened. So the noble explains that he watched all the fights and that he is indeed a true boxer. The protagonist says it's okay, he won't hit him anymore, but Lorvim says that's not the case. In fact, he tried to buy Callie from Lady Azalea, but she refused. Callie says he didn't know Lorvim liked that kind of thing, but Lorvim explains that's not what he meant. He just wanted to buy him to set him free, and he thinks it's a waste to continue as a prisoner. But Callie explains that he doesn't find his status that bad. It's dangerous like walking on a blade all the time, but it's important to him. Lorvim asks, is fighting more important to you than being a free man? Callie says it's better to die than not be able to fight. Now Augusta's fleet has twice the horses and merchandise, all thanks to Lorvim's family. Then the old man in front tells Azalea that they'll soon reach Macedon, the capital of the empire, and she lowers her head. Arriving at the capital of the empire, Sullivan is impressed by the roads, all paved like ancient Rome. At that moment, the empire's troops shout to clear the way, and when they look back, they see the army and realize the kingdom's strength. Sullivan recognizes the imperial troops, and Callie asks who they are. She then explains that she didn't tell him, but before they were hired, they were bandits, and at that time, she met a very skillful man who became the prince of the imperial army. Callie ponders over what Sullivan said, and the guards clear their passages, but Azalea grabs a letter and hands it to the soldier, telling him to send it to the third prince, Iskandar. She looks at Callie and asks him to go to her room as soon as they reach the lodging. Callie then, a little later, goes with Azalea, looking at the papers. She tells everyone to leave, leaving only the two of them. Then Callie says it's better for her to rest since they just arrived from the trip. She says she'll rest a lot later and warns Callie about the third prince, Iskandar, and alerts him to stay put, no matter what Iskandar does or says from now on. Callie was so distracted that he forgot about the price for a treatment of a slave fighter like him and stands up, yelling to understand what she meant by that. After all, he knows it won't be for free. Bam, someone knocks on the door. She stands up saying he's arrived, but Callie puts his hand on her shoulder and asks her to wait. She looks back and asks why he's acting like this, but Callie says it doesn't make sense for them to have come all the way here for this to happen. So she slaps his hand away and says that he only cares about fighting, so he can do whatever he wants. Azalea introduces herself and greets Prince Iskandar, who says he came as fast as he could when he found out she was already there, and that even though their encounter was a long time ago, he never forgot. Callie is thinking that the prince looks more like a fighter than a noble. Iskandar looks at him and asks why he's wearing that sour face. Azalea explains that this is the slave fighter they had talked about. Iskandar seems to know him, saying he heard he's a famous boy in that kingdom and will take care of welcoming everyone. He looks back at the group and tells them to take this boy to the palace because he can't let the future wife's slave be in a place like this. Callie is there in the carriage being taken away, just thinking about what the prince just said. Future wife. Sullivan says that must have been the agreement with the prince. Azalea explains that the prince had told her that he fell in love at first sight, and Sullivan asks if anyone else knows about this. She then replies that no one else does, but she'll tell everyone when the time is right. Callie is just bowing his head, thinking it's his fault for all this, and she's doing this just to improve his leg. The scene changes to Iskandar and his servant, who are asking if he's really going to make Azalea his lover. The prince responds that they shouldn't talk about political matters there and that this can be discussed with his brothers later. After all, when he fell in love with Azalea, but didn't like Callie much because he saw the way he was looking at him. But he made a promise, so contact the divine doctor. The scene changes to a banquet where everyone is celebrating, and even Callie is wearing noble clothes. Sullivan says that now he's bathed and dressed up, he looks different. And apparently, he won't be treated as a slave anymore because now he's finally a warrior. However, Callie glances to the side and sees Iskandar along with Azalea. He thinks maybe things should be this way, and Sullivan touches his shoulder and says that the young mistress chose her path after all. It was him who ignored the opportunities and signs she gave him. Callie stares at her and asks as if she had seen, but Sullivan says she was with them the whole time, so she could not know, and Callie concludes that it doesn't matter now. Iskandar is drinking his wine with his face all red. He then asks if Callie is a skilled boxer, and Azalea replies yes, but he has a hurt leg. The prince then shouts for everyone to hear that the slave fighter will liven up the party. Callie then wants to know what he meant by that, and the prince replies that even though he's not a boxer, all his subordinates know a bit about fighting, and he would like to see a good fight. Azalea tells the prince that Kali is injured and not in a condition to fight, but the prince responds that his hand isn't injured, so if that's the problem, they should have a fight without moving their feet. She looks at Kali, who accepts the fight, while the crowd is all excited to see the skill of the boxer. But Kali seems to lose his temper after all. He never saved Azalea expecting a reward for it, but now in this situation, all he can do is this. Facing his opponent, the protagonist exudes an aura. The rival knight must be around 35 years old and thinks Kali is very young. But that doesn't matter. Face to face, he says whoever feints or takes a step back loses. He thinks the protagonist just strengthened his fist and is at a disadvantage, and if he provokes Kali a little, he'll fall for the blow. Iskandar throws his wine glass on the ground to signal the start of the fight, then the knight throws the first punch while Kali dodges and returns the punch. The knight, realizing the strength, trembles, but the protagonist sends a sequence of blows but is countered by the knight. After several sequences of attacks and defenses, it is announced that the fighter won, and in that, Kali is thinking that all he needs to do is prove his strength. The prince watches the scene but finds the fight boring and didn't meet the expectations of the boy who defeated the ogre. So he claps and says the entertainment is over, thanking everyone for their participation, and after that, he pulls Azalea into a corner, who resists. That night, the prince walks drunkenly through the corridor, wondering why the girl he likes doesn't reciprocate his love. He decides he needs to talk to her. He knocks on her door and she asks who it is, but he says it's Prince Iskandar, so she opens it and says he's drunk. But Iskandar says he wanted to say something he couldn't say during a banquet. Azalea is thinking that this is exactly the situation she avoided. She doesn't want to spend the night with the prince before Kali leaves the empire. But he says they should drink something and she accepts. So he enters and sits at the table, and Azalea asks about the divine doctor. He replies that he's an incredible man with miraculous medicine in various forms, besides being a friend of his father's. Not to mention he's the grandfather and guardian of my brother, the first prince, Philip. Azalea smiles, saying the guy seems to be a good person, so if he's so amazing, she lowers her eyes, saying she thinks he can fix a broken leg. Iskandar realizes she's worried about her fighter and asks if that's it, so she says it's not exactly that, but then he gets up and punches the wall, making a hole. Then he apologizes and says he lost control while grabbing Azalea, saying she doesn't need to be afraid and that he won't let her think about Kali for the rest of her life, and he finishes saying that she will only think of him from now on. Azalea realizes the monster the prince can be and asks for help from Kali, who enters the room and hits Iskandar with a chair on the head. The scene changes to some moments before in a corridor where Kali was watching the prince going drunk, so he thinks it's horrible to meet this man at this moment. However, he realizes the man went to Azalea's room. He remembered everything they went through, but even so, he turned around saying it was none of his business. But he heard a Kali from afar, and realizing it was Azalea calling his name, he ran to help her. The scene returns to her fight with the prince in the room, and he falls to the ground with his hand on his head, realizing what he's doing, but it's too late, and with a piece of the chair, he hits the prince's face, asking how he dares to touch her. Azalea is in the corner, totally silent. The prince then loses his temper and rushes towards the protagonist, but receives another blow from the wood to the face. But before that, he lands a kick that throws Kali against the wall. Iskandar then steps in front of the protagonist and says he understood the whole story. However, this woman is now his and running towards Kali, who's already thinking that it's not the time to imagine the consequences of this. He knows he needs to end this soon and lands a punch right on the prince's chin. He approaches, saying he will use the force that the man is coming with to let him hit himself, and takes another blow, but after getting dizzy, he comes back and grabs Kali's arm, putting him in an arm lock. Kali tries to break free but can't. When the protagonist's arm is almost breaking, they hear a noise and everyone turns around to see that it's Azalea hitting the prince on the head with a chandelier. Then a bunch of soldiers come running down the corridor and the prince realizes the fun is over. Kali is now surrounded by several soldiers telling him his only option is to surrender. Iskandar is all bandaged up and kneeling, and Azalea is trembling by his side. Prince Philippus asks why she's so hurt, and the prince starts explaining what happened, but Philippus interrupts him, threatening to hit him with a metal bar unless he tells the whole truth. Iskandar, trembling with fear, explains the whole situation, leaving Azalea incredulous because he strangely told the whole truth, including the part where he was drunk, and it was all his fault. However, regardless of who is to blame, Kali remains a prisoner of war who attacked a prince and needs to have his death sentence applied. Philippus puts his hand on Iskandar's face, calling him an idiot, and says he'll beat him with the iron bar, while telling him to shut up because he never imagined a younger brother as drunk as him. He kicks his brother's leg and asks how he can go into a girl's room at night in his current state. Iskandar leaves the room and Philippus says he will personally conduct Kali's trial on behalf of His Majesty, who is on an expedition. He orders them to bring the fighter called Callie, who kneels before him to be judged, and Philippus is impressed by the protagonist's young age. Iskandar tries to argue that this prisoner of war is not just anyone besides the fact that he was caught off guard. Philippus tells him to shut up, asking how he dares to use the treatment of the divine doctor as he wishes, not to mention invading a girl's room at night and always doing something shameful. He then removes his glove, directs himself to Azalea, and says that her crime of not following her heart was the most serious in this case and slaps her. She simply apologizes. Philippus says, "The crime of going against the imperial family and harming Iskandar is extremely serious, especially considering that you are a woman and should know the nature of men." Philippus then calls Callie, who is afraid, but he listens to what he has to say. "You're very brave to fight with one leg, but as honorable as it is, Iskandar has his right." And with the blade on Callie's neck, he says, "Even if Azalea refuses, that's their problem. So you remain a criminal who attacked the innocent Iskandar and must assume your responsibility." Then he asks Callie what his last words are, to which he responds, "I have no regrets." Philippus says, "So be it," and cuts the rope, saying that from now on, he is responsible for protecting Miss Azalea because that's what a man has to do. And Philippus declares that according to the strict imperial laws, the winner will be the one who is standing at the end, and the one who loses will be considered the defeated. Both Iskandar and Callie want the same thing, which is Miss Azalea, so there will be a combat after 1 week of training in which her hand will be at stake. The scene changes to Sullivan talking to Callie, saying she heard that Philippus was a heartless guy, but that was a surprise. Callie agrees, but the biggest surprise is that they really resolve things like that. Then Sullivan says she will send some guys to keep an eye on the lady because she found things strange at the banquet too. At that moment, someone asks, "Are you the boxer who hit the prince?" When Callie looks, the knights are all praising him and want him to beat Iskandar. Callie becomes somewhat confused, asking why they speak of the prince so casually. The knight tells him to follow them. When Callie asks why, they respond that it's to go see the divine doctor. Then Callie begins to remember that everything he has been through so far was to meet this doctor, and he wonders if he will finally be able to fix his leg. The scene changes, showing the characters in the chapel of the divine doctor. The guard knocks on the door and someone inside asks who it is. The guard says they brought Callie. The doctor asks them to come in, and when Callie looks at the doctor sitting down, he asks if he's the troublemaker Philippus was talking about and if Callie enjoyed fighting Iskandar. After some conversation, the doctor examines the protagonist's leg and confirms that there are some bone fragments inside his muscles and wants to know how he's enduring so much pain and also when he got this injury. The protagonist responds, "In the autumn of last year." Then the doctor thinks for a moment, but Callie is eager and asks, "Will it be possible to treat this here? Is it too late to heal my legs?" The doctor takes off his glasses, saying that it will indeed be possible. Callie is happy, while the doctor says he can help him, but will only make a temporary prescription for next week's fight. Everyone calls him Dr. God or Divine Doctor, but if it's okay with Callie, he can call the doctor by the name John American. Callie is surprised by the surname, "So you're American?" The doctor looks at the soldiers and tells them to leave, then he explains that he searched for a long time and no one showed up, so finally finding something like this must be fate. Callie asks if he's from Earth, and John replies that his name is John Bradley Clark, and he came here over 40 years ago. With that, John and Callie talked for a long time. John was a captain in the American Army who died in the Korean War in 1950. He was an elite officer specialized in surgery and earned the title of Divine Doctor after helping the Emperor with his extensive knowledge. The doctor was fascinated that Callie came from Earth after the 2000s. This means that his 40 years in this world have passed as 60 in Callie's world. John says they'll have to compare this with other cases. Then Callie asks if there are other cases. The doctor explains that in history, there seem to be other people like them. They were ordinary and suddenly became elite in some kind of field overnight. John says Callie seems to have a kind of remorse with boxing, whereas when he died in the doctor's case, it was medicine. Probably what brought them to this world was an intense desire that goes beyond death. However, maybe it's not the time to talk about that. John already wants Callie to take off his pants, but he says he's not going to perform the surgery yet, just remove a piece of bone that's in the middle of the muscles. This is a treatment that will reduce some of the pain and will be very quick. Callie, in pain, wants to know if he doesn't have anesthesia. The doctor apologizes and replies that he's old, so sometimes he makes mistakes. Callie just wants him to do it quickly. The doctor then removes a piece of bone, saying it's very deep. Then he stitches it up, and the protagonist steps on the ground and realizes that the sensation of something entering his muscle with each step disappears. The doctor says this pain is more bearable, but he should avoid fights as much as possible. However, unfortunately, the fight sanctioned by Philippus will happen. So the doctor gives him a cream and some herbs to help. Callie says he doesn't need to worry. When the protagonist leaves all confident, the soldier notices something strange and asks the doctor if he knows that fighter. The doctor smiles and says he's a friend from the same city as him. The next day, Callie was walking in the corridor when Philippus called him and said he needed to tell him something. He nods and Philippus asks him to go somewhere else. With the two facing each other, Philippus says he heard that the divine doctor has been talking a lot with Callie, and he responds that it's because of the treatment. Philippus then says that if it weren't for the divine doctor, maybe he wouldn't have been born, so he's very special. He says they've been together for over 30 years, but he doesn't know much about him. He also says he wants to get to know him better because he's a very curious person. Philippus says, I heard you're from the same hometown as him. However, I've never heard the divine doctor leaving the empire in the last 20 years. And besides, you're only 20 years old in this kingdom. So who are you, Callie? Or what are you? The scene shifts to a few days ago where John asked, why didn't Philippus kill you, Callie? Callie responds that he also has no idea, not to mention that he made Iskandar bleed, which was more than enough for him to have been killed. John tells him that boy is the key to the development of this civilization. I taught him everything I knew. Philippus doesn't want to ascend to the throne with noble titles, but with power, and in other words, he's a Republican. And if Philippus becomes the next emperor, there will be blood in this empire. Here, strength is important, power is synonymous with status, but that doesn't guarantee that a battlefield hero will become a leader. That's why Philippus seeks individuals who are willing to enter the fire without hesitation for this belief, just like you challenge authority and are a skilled individual. Back in the conversation, Callie is trying to analyze Philippus's intentions. I don't think he's trying to harm me, he says, and then he says it's just something related to boxing, his interaction with John. However, Philippus stares at him, saying, from your response, there's something more. He sighs, I won't force you to answer, keep today's topic secret from the divine doctor, because I want him to see me as a harmless disciple. However, if you change your mind and want to be more honest with me, you can come anytime. Callie says he's still not sure about all of this, but he'll talk to him when he changes his mind. Philippus starts laughing like a psychopath because basically Callie admitted in his own way that he's hiding something. Philippus says, for this audacity, I'll give you a credit. Take this as a gift to persuade you. Callie asks what it is, and Philippus tells him it's the imperial martial technique from Indra's book. Iskandar is a master of these arts. Our protagonist asks if Philippus wants his brother to take it, and he replies actually it's the opposite. Iskandar is his favorite brother. If Iskandar wins as the older brother, he'll be happy. And if Callie wins, now he owes him something. The boy now understands that he's cornered. Philippus says that regardless of who wins, he comes out winning. With that, he leaves and Callie thinks that Philippus is more treacherous than he thought. And he starts to look at the book, and the techniques taught there are all very good for immobilization. Surely, if Iskandar hadn't been drunk, he would have lost. This time, he's in trouble. Especially considering that he damn well can't read a word of this place. All he knows is some things he spoke frequently in his name. Unfortunately, when he showed it to Sullivan, she couldn't read it either. It's a type of writing that only officials and aristocrats can read. Callie thinks that maybe he could ask John. However, he's not someone he can bother all the time, especially considering the suspicions. Sullivan then says, why don't you ask Lady Azalea? You haven't seen her in the last few days. Considering her personality, she must be blaming herself now. The scene shifts to Callie thinking, I only came here because of this book. And then he knocks on the door. She asks who it is, and Callie says, it's me, lady. The room gets noisy, and suddenly she opens the door sweating and tired while asking what brings him here. What brings you here? She asks if it's his leg, what happened. Callie says he's not 100%, but he at least received a treatment that will help in the fight. She starts crying emotionally, saying she's very happy. Callie feels a bit awkward, and he shows her the book and says, I wanted you to read this for me. I heard it's a martial art used by Iskandar. Azalea asks if he received it from Philippus and says it's strange how kind this guy is being. She flips through the book and says there's quite a bit, but Callie says he can't understand it just from the pictures. At least read me the parts that seem important. Azalea looks down and asks, you still haven't blamed me. Callie tells her he knows everyone makes mistakes and asks her not to do it again. He thinks this applies to him too, especially since his last life didn't learn any of that until it was too late. Pointing to the book, he asks what that is, and she says it's a way to initiate a fight when the opponent is too far away, but it's a dirty method. You collect saliva in your mouth along with blood and spit it in their face. The opponent's physiological response makes them try to clean up, and then you take the chance to knock them down. Callie thinks the prince wouldn't fight like this. He seemed like a guy who likes to fight with dignity. She continues reading. After that, crouch down and kick quickly, then drag the opponent down to the ground. Time passes with them looking at the book while Callie thinks he's learning too much. Azalea is already yawning and Callie says, "Let's stop here. If I learn too much, I'll think too much about the fight." And she asks, "Do you think you can win? You're a boxer. This martial art he uses is very different." Callie is now confident and blushing, saying, "Have you forgotten? I'm the guy with the title of Ogre Hunter," but he's thinking that saying this is embarrassing. She says it's okay then, she trusts him. And Callie says he's going. But in reality, she's scared, thinking that if Callie loses, she'll be Iskandar's woman, and then she wonders, "Is this all I can do for Callie?" She then runs and grabs his arm, asking him not to go, please. Callie gets shy and the candles go out. Has the boy practiced the techniques that make the protagonist invincible? The next day, Sullivan is just smiling at him. He asks why she's smiling like that, and Sullivan says, "Callie, did you go back to the room in the middle of the night? Where were you?" He's already all red and twisted, saying he was preparing for the fight and needed some time alone. As he thinks, how did she see me at a time like that? The door then opens, and Sullivan says, "You have to win, Callie." He looks back, and now the boy is confident. The whole army surrounds the arena, making sounds with shields and swords. From the throne, Philippus is watching, and the soldiers are all excited. The third prince of the empire and descendant of the god of war, Iskandar. The soldiers say, "He's going to beat you up, kid." As Iskandar enters, all smiling and confident. This is indeed a perfect day to crush someone. Our protagonist also enters the arena, but now with a much more evolved physique. Philippus raises his arm and announces, "The winner is the one who remains until the end, and the loser will be considered defeated in this arena." This is the manifestation of the god of war, and this fight was approved by Emperor Alexandros. Iskandar takes off his shirt, thinking that now it's not even about Azalea anymore. It's just that he has no choice but to crush Callie, so he better resist at least a little. The guy is 50 kilos heavier than Callie, and seeing the monster coming, he thinks, "Now it's a fight without rules. This is not boxing. Iskandar is a very difficult opponent, but I have to win at all costs and prove that strength isn't everything." The soldiers form a circle with the two in the middle, and the fight has already begun. Callie takes 2 steps forward and punches him in the face and then retreats. Iskandar hasn't even raised his arms yet, and he's already bleeding from the nose. He says it's going to be interesting now that Callie can move, as expected from the divine doctor. Then he comes with that bomb that Callie dodges to the side, and dodges again by squatting, moving to the right, moving to the left. Iskandar thinks it's better, but strangely the air is getting heavy around him, and it's getting bad. While the pressure of his arms scares Callie until he sees a chance to hit him in the face or stomach, but hesitates because he can't counterattack and wonders. He hesitated because he remembered Azalea and wondered if he was afraid to fight at full strength or if he was afraid of losing something. Taking a kick to the face, he is thrown to the other side. Iskandar yells at him to fight properly as Callie gets up. Iskandar realizes that when he went to kick, Callie had leaned back to reduce the impact. Exhausted, Callie thinks he might be going crazy for having such thoughts in the midst of the fight. He goes back in, reminding himself not to hesitate. Now he can stomp the ground without pain, making his punches stronger. However, Iskandar throws a fake punch and prepares to kick instead. Callie barely dodges and lands a classic rib strike, making Iskandar writhe in pain. Iskandar tries to grab Callie's shoulder, but Callie blocks with his arm, knowing he'll be finished if caught. He realizes he can't let Iskandar recover, landing more blows to the stomach and face. Watching, Philippus thinks the pugilism technique might not work perfectly, but Callie must do everything to defeat Iskandar. The princes of this empire undergo rigorous training, expected to be strong both physically and mentally. The Iskandar was raised as a warrior, becoming more excited than fearful when facing someone strong. Taking punches, Iskandar thinks Callie is like him, not charging recklessly but calmly choosing the right time to strike. Iskandar decides to make a run for it, knowing his leg is at its limit. But Philippus realizes it's a trap. As Iskandar approaches, Callie worries about mistiming and manages to land a blow that rocks Iskandar's head. Callie believes he hit perfectly, but Iskandar retaliates, grabbing Callie's stomach and throwing him to the ground. Callie is astonished he didn't pass out after such a head blow. With Callie taking a beating, Iskandar wonders when he managed to throw him down, but doesn't care as he won't stop now. Trained in brutality, Iskandar aims to break Callie's arm, who notices Iskandar's injured thigh. Without hesitation, Callie thrusts his hand into Iskandar's thigh, causing him agony. In reflex, Iskandar grabs Callie's arm, who lands another blow and retreats. But Callie notices Iskandar has stretched his ligament, realizing he's in trouble. Callie taunts him, asking if Iskandar understands his pain. Iskandar, thrilled, claims to be enjoying the fight. Watching from above, Philippus is certain Iskandar is enjoying it too. To force a member of the royal family to use all their strength, Philippus concludes Callie is as brave as he is skilled. At that moment, Azalea arrives and Philippus remarks that she's late. Philippus says to her, Azalea a jest. I heard that Callie is a slave of your family. She confirms, and Philippus then says, if it's money, I'll pay you whatever you want to hand him over to me. Sell Callie to me because I think I can handle him better than you. He's too big to be confined in your small world. Azalea hesitates but says, I hope you're joking, Your Majesty. I already know that Callie is too good for me. However, she adds, but don't you know that Callie and I don't have a master-slave relationship? Are you revealing our relationship? Philippus asks, are you willing to marry him? Weren't you the one who leaned towards Iskandar that one time? Azalea responds, I'll do anything for him. Whether it's freedom, difficulty, or marriage, I'll do everything for him because he's done everything for me. Back in the arena, Iskandar admits, Callie is stronger than I thought. Pride is a luxury of the winner, and if that's the case, he will win at all costs. Callie knows he's in trouble and thinks, I can only punch with my right hand. Should I use my teeth to attack him? But my leg is reaching its limit again. With so much difficulty, it would be incredible if I beat him in this state. I'm going to crush you here, says Iskandar as he approaches, while Callie responds, at the pinnacle, I'll regain my pride. I've lived 30 years on this earth as part Kangtae, and I'm going to put all the years of that life into this fight, because my life as Callie now is important. As Iskandar tries to grab him, Callie dodges and delivers a powerful knee strike, causing Iskandar to lose balance. As Callie goes for another strike, aiming for Iskandar's jaw, he lands a blow to the head, but Iskandar defends with his forehead and retaliates, disorienting Callie. Iskandar grabs his leg, boasting about his lineage, and throws Callie into the air. As Callie falls and loses consciousness, Azalea appears, wiping away her tears, and tells him, don't look at me like that, almost crying. She touches his face and says, bring me victory as always, Callie. Motivated, Callie gets up, impressing the soldiers with his determination. Meanwhile, Iskandar seems to grow stronger by the minute, proclaiming, do you know why I didn't fall? Callie replies, yes, because your head is just decoration. Iskandar, angered, asserts, it's because I am a descendant of the god of war, and I won't lose. I have sacred blood, but Callie smiles, saying, today, victory is mine. As Iskandar prepares something, Callie remembers Azalea's technique of initiating a confrontation from a distance. Callie realizes he was wrong. Iskandar will do anything to win because victory is his pride. Iskandar spits towards him, but Callie defends with his hand, confusing Iskandar. Seizing the opportunity, Callie strikes Iskandar's chin, leaving him perplexed. Claiming to have heard the voice of the goddess, Callie defeats Iskandar. Philippus stands and announces, your victory has been witnessed by me, the first prince of the empire. Callie the pugilist has won the fight. The Empire and the gods of war recognize this. With that, he leaves saying, Callie, as the winner, you may leave a like on this video. To help Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers to receive the next part, don't forget to hit that cheeky little bell, and I'm out.